You're gonna be talking to a little. Codeine Castle. He calls it the Codeine Castle.
Yo, what's up, Tricks? I'm here with
It's
Jay
purple.
Dyer. We're here in the Codeine Castle with Jay Dyer.
We in the Codeine Castle with the peppermint rims, tripping on that candy coating on them rims. You can lick it, get yourself a high, dog. I'm sorry, I don't know what I'm talking about.
We're just talking about Riff Raff. Riff Raff, the ultimate millennial.
I got my rims that's coated in caramel, so you can lick it and get yourself a high.
All right, everybody. We got a special episode today. We're doing a little movie review, esoteric analysis. Jay's gonna be doing the whole stream in character as Riff Raff. So that's gonna
What's
be
up? How
fun.
y'all doing? Peppermint stripes on these bitches. I only with hoes who like Dolce and Gabbana. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? How y'all doing today?
Got that
Come to my
Scarface.
Codeine Castle.
Scarface on repeat, y'all. Beatbox says Boomer and Millennial analyze movie as sign of peace between generations.
Except I'm not a boomer, but I can dress like one.
He can dress like one. He's got that. Look at that hat, man. I think he got that hat specially for this occasion.
I did. I need to do it like that to do this analysis, right? The bill's got to be flat.
Yeah.
Like y'all dumb millennials with that dumb flat bill. What's up, y'all? We gonna do some movie review today. How y'all doing? I could talk like Gucci Mane too, dog. Talk like Gucci Mane. He was in the movie.
Oh, Gucci Man, he was great. I think he got an Academy Award for his performance in Spring Breakers.
Gucci Mane was having a little bit of struggle with that acting, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's like, yo, my baby need to eat. My baby's starving, y'all. He's got like pounds of weed in front of him.
Pounds of weed, yeah, and he's like, I brought you up. I brought you up on the streets. I taught you the game, and now you getting too big for your britches.
So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about two movies today. This is kind of in line with the theme of the social engineering of the millennial. Jay and I, we both watched two movies that they got a lot in common. Also very different films.
They do.
Beneath the Silver Lake and Spring Breakers. So maybe we should talk about Beneath the Silver Lake first, because I was just reviewing some clips of that. Let's see, I had some screenshots. I'll throw some screenshots up as we go. But that's a film that's got Andrew Garfield, the guy who played like the young millennial Spider-Man a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
How does it? I remember it starts out in like a Starbucks, right, or some sort of a coffee shop, which is kind of the perfect millennial meeting place.
Yeah, it's a very strange film. It's a satire, dark satire, comedy, conspiracy movie. A lot of throwbacks to Hitchcock, neo-noir. A lot of throwbacks to old Hollywood, Silver Age Hollywood, Gold Age Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And we begin by seeing this coffee shop, all the hipsters hanging out, and there's graffiti that's been painted on the wall about watch out for the dog killer. So dogs are being killed. We don't know why or what's going on here. Animals and dogs pop up all throughout the film. They have all of these sort of mystical significances. They're almost like totem spirits that keep popping up in and out.
Well, the first one that you
things.
actually see is a dead squirrel, right? There's this dead squirrel
Exactly.
that falls from the sky, almost like an owl.
There's this omen, right? So the movie starts with this sort of dark omen of this dead squirrel that just sort of pops out of the sky in front of him. And from then on, we know something shady's about to be going on. But let's see what I had in my notes here. I got a bunch of notes on this one. So the omen of the dead squirrel, that was my first note. There's a band playing, and we see an ad for this Jesus and the Brides of Dracula band. So there's this weird mix of pop culture with religious symbolism, and it could be any pop band, right? It could just be a cut and paste of any of the shit pop bands, and that's interesting because the lead singer of this pop band is going to be immediately associated with shit. Did you notice that?
You know what? I actually didn't notice that they associate him with shit. I got the screenshot pulled up right now. Jesus and the Brides of Dracula, East LA Resurrected or Never
Yeah.
Dead. And it's this guy, like Steven Tyler looking dude with his shirt off, and some chicks dressed as like satanic nuns surrounding him. How do they associate
Well,
him
there's
with shit?
there's a really disgusting scene where when Andrew Garfield finally tracks that guy down to ask him some questions about the lyrics, and he sneaks into the bathroom and throws the dude off the toilet, and you see this big pile of shit right next to the guy.
Wow.
So that's a double reference both to Jodorowsky's film where the Jesus character takes a poop, which is, was done intentionally, I think, by Jodorowsky to lampoon Christianity. But at the same time, there's also the idea that this singer is essentially shitty. He doesn't have talent. And as we'll see, it kind of jives with Dave McGowan type research that this band is really just a front. Like their real songs aren't even written by them. They're just a cut and paste, product.
And you find this out later on in the film that they didn't write any of the songs.
Getting ahead of myself, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to blow that scene yet because we'll talk about that a little bit later. So Jesus and the Brides, and then the guy goes home and he's sitting on his porch and he's got his cell phone, a cigarette, and some binoculars, and he's checking out some like weird.
Yeah, he's
weird boomer chick.
voyeurizing his hippie open-tittied neighbor who is feeding her birds. She's got basically a zoo of birds on her balcony and feeding them bare-breasted. And then he spies the babe, right, the younger chick. And she's out by the pool dancing, mystically just dancing by herself for no reason with her puppy dog. Mm-hmm. And so he starts, thinking, all right, I'm going to go for that. I'm going to spit some game at her. I'm trying to think how he first meets her. I think he just kind of smiles at her and she sees him voyeurizing. And so these are immediate references to Rear Window, Hitchcock, because, this Jimmy Stewart character's he's broken his leg. He's stuck in his apartment. So all he has to do all day is just basically watch all the other people in the apartments, and he gets into voyeurism. So that's a very Hitchcockian theme, the whole surveillance stuff. Let's see. He then Max on the chick, right? So he bumps into her. He starts talking to her. She says, "Hey, come over." Mm-hmm. They smoke some weed. They watch an old movie, a Marilyn Monroe movie.
And she's kind of dressed up as like a film noir, like the classic film noir, femme fatale kind of chick who.
Exactly. She's the femme fatale. Exactly. Good point. Yeah. And the movie is relevant too because I actually watched, I'd never seen it, believe it or not, a Marilyn Monroe movie until Jamie was like, "Hey, we should watch the movie that they're watching." Uh-huh. And they're watching How to
Marry a Millionaire.
Marry a Millionaire.
Uh-huh.
So that should have been a clue right away that this bitch is a thought, dude. She ain't after your low-level LA apartment. She's after big money, right?
Mm-hmm. Did you notice that she has statues of Marilyn Monroe, Jane Mansfield, and whoever that other woman is? Did you see that there's like code written underneath it? So there's on the statues underneath it, there's like a card that will say Marilyn, and then it'll have underneath it had some strange alphabet, like some upside down T and some other symbols that looked almost like English, but they were written in code. I didn't notice that till I was going through it right now, taking out screenshots.
No, I missed that. So she was already kind of learning to speak in the code cipher speak that the elite use, basically.
Yeah, so I've got the screenshot pulled up right now on this one, and it's the same cipher type language that James Garfield's character kind of discovers later on. I didn't know that until I didn't notice that.
Oh, okay. So that is interesting. So she's basically trying to learn it, and then that's why when she leaves the apartment suddenly in the middle of the night, she leaves that symbol, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right, which is like two diamonds on their sides, basically.
Yeah, and he doesn't know what it means. He goes trying to figure out what this symbol means.
Right, and so at the same time as all that's going down, he and he notices this weird pirate guy at her hanging out her apartment. Some idiot hipster that dresses up like a pirate.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Who is that fucking weird dude?" And he's like, "Why are all your friends so weird?" And at the same time, keep in mind too, he can't pay his rent.
Uh-huh.
So he's overdue on his rent. He can't pay his rent. He goes to the landlord. He's like, "Why did this chick move out in the middle of the night?" The landlord's like, "'Cause she wanted to move." And he's like, "Yeah, but in the middle of the night." And he's like, "She moved. She didn't like you. Get over it." And he's like, "Pay your rent." So this is an interesting because conspiracy theorists, right? They're always portrayed as the guys who can't pay their rent. They get obsessed with the conspiracy. They have the strands of yarn all over the apartment.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the wall.
Nothing going on in their life other than just this obsessive,
Yeah.
compulsive behavior
They get
of
obsessed, right, down the
conspiracizing
rabbit-
everything in the world. And he doesn't necessarily fit all of those stereotypes, but he touches on them a little bit, right? He's got his feet in the shallow
Well,
end.
he's gonna. If you remember, his buddy, who he meets, who's the comic book artist, is the conspiracy theorist who's way down the rabbit hole, and he thinks that guy's a nutball. Like he's like, this guy's crazy. But as the film progresses, he starts going down that rabbit hole, right? So,
And what's interesting is the whole rabbit hole is like it's laid out so that it can lead the character progressively down his little, hero's journey of degeneracy
Right.
and pop culture masturbatory, existence. He sees where did he first see it in a comic book or something? It said that
he notices that his favorite comic book has this artist has put out this comic about the Silver Lake and murders in the past related to Hollywood in relationship to this lake that's near where he lives.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so basically he tracks down the artist, but he also notices too. This is two other points that so in the first chick's apartment, we see hearts and butterflies, which is imagery of like transformation, also sometimes connected to mind control.
Mm-hmm.
She sees fireworks and goes into a trance. So she's mesmerized by fireworks at one bizarre. So he doesn't understand what's up with this chick. She seems crazy.
Yeah, he's watching her almost as if she's a television screen too, right? Like the way he interacts with her and all their, even though they have, I guess they don't have sex, but they kiss or something, right? Or they have some.
Yeah,
sort
he
of,
wants to. He thinks he's gonna get laid, and then she's like, "Oh, sorry, I gotta go, and you need to go. We'll hang out some other time." And he's like, and they're eating crackers because they're stoned.
Yeah, well, they're having orange juice and like saltine crackers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, and all the food culture in this movie, it's all fast food or prepackaged crap, but then they're drinking like expensive drinks at these parties and stuff, right? And then just trash food but expensive liquor.
Good point. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but there's also kind of like he's interacting with these higher level, higher classes and much wealthier people. So people out of his league. Now he's not a broke. His money, he has some money, right? Because he calls his mom, she's supporting him. So that's another kind of millennial thing. Like he doesn't have a job, but his mom is sending him money for some reason. We don't know why.
Right, and I like that scene actually when he's talking on the phone with his mom, and he has no respect for her at all, right? He's got a cigarette in his mouth. He's like basically jerking off with binoculars, spying on his neighbors, and just like, yeah, mom, whatever, yeah, I love you. So I mean, and it's such a typical generational divide that's represented there with millennials, right? Just mom, dad, give me money so I can buy drugs and pay my rent.
That's a great point. And basically just screw around, watch porn, play video games, be nihilistic, basically.
Yeah.
Hedonistic, nihilistic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hedonism's a major theme in both of these films, and that one chick that he meets later. Well, we'll talk about this later. Go ahead. It seems like you've got a really good outline right now of the film.
So let's see. So he notices too this weird news clip of a billionaire who has supposedly died or gone missing, and he has a TV show. And he wasn't just a billionaire; he was also a kind of evil Knievel, Super Dave type character who I don't know did some kind of jumps over buses and shit. But he's gone missing or he's kidnapped. We don't know. So he puts that in the back of his mind. He doesn't know what's going on yet, but it's probably connected. If you look at the films and if you look at his posters, they're all old Hollywood. So his apartment is full of old movie posters. Everything from Wolfman to Hitchcock to all kinds of classic Hollywood. Then Let's see.
Well, he's got the faces on the wall too. The plaster cast faces.
That was the conspiracy theorist.
Oh, okay.
The
No,
crazy.
I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah.
But I'm just saying you're right though that when you were talking about him interacting with her almost like she's on a TV screen, and he sees it that way. That's because he's viewing the world like it's a movie, like it's a virtual, Hollywood presentation, something like a video game. The movie itself is like a video game quest, basically. Hence the Zelda references later on.
Yeah, and also he wears, his video game shirt, right? He's got a shirt.
Exactly.
And it's a character swimming in the water, and there's a shark underneath. I think that's what the shirt is. There's a shark underneath it, and then it says, 100 points on the person that's swimming across the top. Like he's about to be consumed by this creature that lurks beneath.
Yeah, well, now you've noticed a whole bunch of things I didn't even notice, and I gave it 2 viewings and still missed quite a bit of the references. So there's a lot here. Let's see, I've got a note. It says Silver Lake area was an old silent film studio. So it goes. There's this ghostly past back to the early days of Hollywood, and then he's reading his comic book, and the comic book's based around these murders that happened a long time ago. And there's a reference to it said this phrase: "No one will ever be happy until all of the dogs are dead." So we keep seeing this reference to the need for the dogs to die. There was a reference to stunt dogs, and in this story, some actor killed a dog because he got mad and jealous that the dog was getting more screen time than he was in this old. In the comic book's referencing the 20s, and it's telling this story about some actor that got upstaged by some stupid dog, and he killed the dog.
That's kind of a weird. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So there's this mythology of the dog killer, but we don't know why it's being put on graffiti everywhere in the present day.
But it also, it puts on the same level the dog and the actors and the people, right? Basically trained dogs.
They are, in fact, yeah. What you'll notice, there's a few scenes where the thoughts, all the millennial thoughts, bitches start barking. Mm-hmm. They're essentially the dogs, I think.
Well, they bark at him, right? They're barking at. They throw him down in the bathroom. One of them spits in his face, exactly. And then they start barking at him.
Let's see, Eden. So is it cursed? Is the Silver Lake Edendale, is it cursed? He has a dream of a dog killer in the park. And keep in mind, he's got Wolfman posters on his wall. Wolfman, rear window, Dracula. And then the two squares that are the symbols that she's left in her room are they're almost exactly the same as the Twin Peaks symbols about, that reference the cult out in the woods in Twin Peaks.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't notice that. But there are a lot of David Lynch references in the movie too, though.
Right. So we know there's some kind of something cultic going on in the background. We don't exactly know what yet, but he goes to this party. They call it Purgatory. The party is called Purgatory. I'm not sure what to make of that, but there is a very conspicuous all-seeing eye at the party. So we're going to be littered with the all-seeing eye imagery, classic conspiracy, Egypt, Pharaoh, that kind of stuff. And that's going to be essentially the crux of the film is spoiler alert. It's going to be about Egyptian mystery religion, essentially. That's the crux of it. But, so the women are barking at him like dogs. And then he leaves this party. He's trying to get information on what's going on, and he can't figure out where this chick disappeared to. He's kind of infatuated with her. And then he finds out that the daughter of the billionaire who went missing is hanging out at these parties too. So he's thinking, oh, maybe I could talk to her. But he doesn't get a chance to. The bitches in the bathroom throw him down and bark at him, like he said.
Yeah, I got that picture. I got a screenshot of the crazy chicks. They all have pink wigs, like pink hair.
Yeah.
They're kind of dressed up like the crazy feminist chicks.
So then he overhears the brides of Dracula, who are the women in this stupid pop band, talking about sleeping with Jesus, who's the idiot pop band leader guy. And so the clue here is that these women are all essentially prostitutes. They're all they're in it for is status climbing and money. And I think the irony here is that he doesn't pick up on this. This girl that he's infatuated with he's not picking up on the fact that she's just one of these same thoughts.
Yeah.
She's one of these same hoes, but he's really thinking, oh, I can still put my time and energy into the quest, like, Link, and I can say Princess Zelda or something.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get this weird reference to the owl and the owl's kiss, because he's got all these questions. So he tracks down his conspiracy theory buddy. Well, they become buddies. He's the guy who draws the comic book. And this conspiracy theory guy is like way down the rabbit hole. If you look in his room, there's every kind of conspiracy you could think of, everything UFO, aliens, Templars, little figurines of Zelda.
We got a lot of owls in there too. Yeah.
Owls, yeah. And so Bohemian Grove references start coming to the fore. And he's intrigued by the conspiracy guy's thoughts, but he also starts thinking he's nuts, because the conspiracy guy has taken it so far that he's actually referencing, like you said, pop culture crap food. Like, it's supposed to be Flintstone cereal, but it's Space Stones, right? So he's like, he's there's these messages that are on the boxes of cereal, and he's like, this guy's
yeah. The message, he says something like everything I've been looking for my whole life, I believe, is on this map. And he shows him the map on the back of this stupid box
of cereal, yeah.
Which is so funny, but it's like, I mean, you see this a lot in pop culture now, and even in the whole conspiracy world. Remember all the, like the synchro mysticism videos and stuff back in like 2012. Exactly. People were getting really into finding these weird pop culture references, and basically, and people started trying to make predictions about future events by watching television and pop culture, which is so funny. They thought in this like realm of like the whole conspiracy world, these people were, they thought they were, tapping into something so prophetic. But yeah. What do you think about that whole phenomenon back in the day? I don't know if people still do it, but that was huge.
Well, I think obviously it's a way to look silly, because we don't always know what is intentional and what's not. I mean, I think looking back, it's easier to figure out, okay, there were quite a few references to 9/11 in pop culture, but yeah, I mean, that's no guarantee that you're going to infallibly interpret the phenomena in pop culture. And a lot of things in pop culture aren't intentional. They're just coincidence, or they're put there by artist creativity. But sometimes there is predictive programming. So, but again, unless you know for sure the intention of the people who put it in there, it's not really any way to know with certainty, what the meaning is. But
it was another real.
But yeah, it does. Yeah, it recalls that, Lauren Coleman's blog, Synchromysticism. He got pretty popular for a while, and even Hoffman in his book talks about mystical toponymy, about names. And if you've ever heard of James Shelby Downard, he wrote a whole book about this very thing. But, anyway,
so it was another funny thing in the same scene, or in the same sequence, when they start going over the plaster faces on the wall, and the guy, the character, or the actor who plays this character, is the same guy that was in Mulholland Drive, that plays that in the last scene, in the before that like weird monster bum thing pops out in the very last scene. So I thought that was a weird reference, and he's kind of a similar character, right, with the weird eyes and the just bugging out, tripping out about life.
Well, this is another parallel to Twin Peaks and Lynch stuff. You're right. Is the hobos. Hobos are a network. Hobos have a king. In David Lynch, there's hobo demons, right? Hobo goblins, pretty consistently throughout David Lynch stuff. So that's, I think, intentional. That was a.
Did you catch the weird part when he where he says, "There's Johnny Depp's face right next to Grace Kelly"?
What did you make of that?
I don't know. I don't know what to make of it, right? So I'm not. Let me look into this. I looked into Grace Kelly before, but it was just weird. They paused for about 10 seconds showing Johnny Depp's face and Grace Kelly, and they both kind of got a little bit tripped out by it.
Well, she was murdered by the elite. It's pretty certain there.
Okay, she was the Princess of Monaco, right? She was
dating the Prince of Monaco, and there was he had held back money that had to do with diamonds. Mm-hmm. So he was involved in some shady diamond stuff, and the elite sent him a message.
I just thought it was so strange because, Johnny Depp, I mean, when you look at like kind of where he's at today and all the weird stories about him, the Viper Room, his connections with Hunter Thompson, I mean, he was obsessed with Hunter Thompson, really, really close with him, basically. He just hit the shattered psyche of Johnny Depp is kind of like the quintessential, child star. He wasn't one of these kid stars who was around Hollywood for a long time. I
That's a good point. Yeah.
I just thought it was a weird reference, to obviously possible human sacrifice stuff that people talk about with
Mm-hmm.
Grace Kelly, and then Johnny Depp being involved in a lot of these weird things with River Phoenix and stuff too. I don't know what to make of it. It seems like they were just trying to bait people to kind of think about these things.
So he gets this cookie at this party and says, "Hey, come to the Brides of Dracula performance. We're playing in a tomb." So that they're actually going to have the band's going to play in a tomb. But to get into this party, he has to eat this cookie. And it's a cookie that has the number 76 on it. So I'm not 1776, and I'm not exactly sure what the point of the 76 was. The logo, 76 oil company or whatever.
Well, in California, there's 76 gas stations everywhere too. So
right, that's what I meant. The gas station, the oil company. So let's see. The billionaire, it turns out he was supposedly burned up in a car wreck. They found his car, and there's a hat there, and it's the hat of the chick. It's on the news clip. They find this hat, and it's the hat of the girl that he was first infatuated with. So now he starts to be freaked out because he's like, whoa, this chick that I was trying to make it with, she's actually, hanging out with this billionaire that supposedly just died. So this is crazy. What's going on? He's like, I didn't even know that I was hanging out with this hoe of the billionaire. So anyway, but I forgot too, the other thing about the conspiracy theorist is that he tells Andrew Garfield, says, watch out for the owl's kiss. And he doesn't know what that is, but it's some kind of assassin or something, kind of spirit or killer. And he says anybody who sees the owl, they know they're going to be dying soon.
It is a pretty blatant Twin Peaks kind of reference, right?
There is, and also Bohemian Grove, and then he shows him the owl on the dollar bill. He's like, look at our dollar bill. It has an owl on it, right? Which has the all-seeing eye on it too. But and there really is, the owl on the dollar bill is true. And that's why DC has that owl imagery. And owls are obviously, they're kind of classic symbols for spooks. I mean, not just spooks in the sense of ghosts and demons and the way it's used in Twin Peaks.
Yeah, but intelligence.
Here. But they're intelligent because they sit back and they watch. Exactly. I'm not sure what to make of the Janet Gaynor stuff about how his mom loves this actress Janet Gaynor and she's her favorite, and that comes up a little bit later after this band performance that he goes to. But the reason I'm bringing up the band performance is because he meets another thought at this party who was dancing with balloons and acting all idiotic. He eats this cookie because he said he was told that's how you get in the party, is you have to eat the cookie. Well, it turns out you're just supposed to take a bite of the cookie, and it's like a really heavy dose of, I don't know, MDMA or
some sort of hallucinogen or something.
Some heavy drug. So he gets blowed out of his mind, and he's trying to score with this chick, but he can't because he ends up being so messed up. And
what do you think about the red balloon and like the chick's kind of appearance? I got a picture of her pulled up. I thought that it was a very Masonic building that they go into. It's kind of like this initiation, and then they go underground, right? So it's like the first.
No, yeah, it is. It's the party that he was just at was called Purgatory, and then he's underground in this tomb. So it's the underworld. It's supposed to be the realm of the dead.
And did you see the table they sit at is shaped like a heart, but it's a tombstone, and it says Jane Mansfield on it?
Oh, I didn't see that. No, I missed that.
I paused it and tried to figure out some of the references and some of the stuff. And right before that, when before he goes to the party, he's talking to the guy in the weird Indian suit, and they're in front of this giant tombstone that says Hitchcock on it.
And of course Jane Mansfield being in the Church of Satan, so that was an interesting reference there.
Yeah, and the chick, she's got like a bindi in her eye. She's got like her cute glittery plastic fake jewel for her third eye. It's like this whole fake spiritual thing. And then they're talking.
Now this is crucial, because the thoughts in the movie are bought into the ascension consciousness cult that's going to be referenced at the end. Did you catch that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, and that's kind of the freakier part about it.
Yeah. So the girls all believe that they're part of this secret elite network that's going to ascend, which we'll see later. But so,
and this girl says to him when they're down there, we've only got one life. It's just so
Yeah.
small. Don't waste your time thinking about things that don't matter. We have our
Let's just
bodies.
party. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's just
we can just
fuck.
fuck. Yeah, she says that a couple times in this really awkward way, and then she blows up a balloon. She pulls out a red balloon. She blows it up like when she's talking about not wasting your energy on futile things. She pulls a
Yeah.
fucking plastic balloon from her shirt and blows it up, and then pops it with a cigarette. And then they go, and then they go dance to an REM song. Like,
REM. Yeah. Right.
I forget what song it was. And then in the middle of the dance, she goes, "We should fuck." It's so
I just
awkward.
took that as millennial weirdness. Just
This is
total
the
hedonism.
millennial dating ritual right here, right? Like,
Yeah.
meet at a stupid party, consume some drugs.
Let's blow up some balloons. That's hot.
I have fruity pebbles at my house. We can go home and we can fuck and we can eat them.
Yeah. Right.
Let's go watch Let's go watch My Little Pony.
Exactly. Yeah. The that's part of what makes the film appealing is the weirdness of all the millennial pop culture
And
garbage.
it's so funny the way they interact with each other and like the
It's all
disconnect
awkward.
from them.
Everything is awkward. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's always so stoned. He's always Andrew Garfield's character is always just blazed out of his mind. His eyes are like half closed, and he's like mumbling, and always
So
indecisive.
he wakes up after kind of blacking out after being drugged at this party the next day in this graveyard, and he talks to his mom. She mentions movies and Janet Gaynor, this actress from the old days of Hollywood. By the way, I looked her up. She was in How to Be a Star or How to Spot a Star or something about women becoming stars in Hollywood. Basically, is her big famous movie. And then so in other words, that's hinting at all of these hoes around him is they think they're going to be stars. They're trying to climb that ladder, and it's all essentially run by a giant cult. And the only way that you get to the top is basically being a prostitute. And we're starting to learn that, oh, wait, turns out a lot of the A-list actresses basically just slept their way to the top. This is part of the whole Weinstein stuff, right?
Right, right, and
Uh,
this is all coming out. And this film just came out during all this madness too, and all the girls
Right.
he's been talking to, he sees a few of them in movies. Right, he ends up like, and everyone's trying to get parts. Right, it's just the LA scene.
Exactly.
Everyone's trying to get recognized, get attention, but everybody's just totally lost, has no idea who they are, what they're about. They have no values, no morals. The only like references to Christianity are like just blasphemous. It's Jesus is the head of this vampire band, and it's just totally
Right.
twisted reality that they're living in. And yeah, you're right. All the female characters in this movie were literal prostitutes. You find out.
Well, that's what when he that night he leaves the graveyard, he goes to this party, which again is at a graveyard, which is interesting. So, because the hipsters are doing an independent movie showing at the graveyard, and so everybody's just kind of hanging out and chilling. And he's watching the movie, and he sees these mediocre actresses in this independent film, and he looks over at that goofy pirate dude that he saw at the beginning at the party at the chick's apartment, and he's got these two hoes on his arm, and he's like, wait a minute. He's like, that's the chicks from the movie. So he's noticing, like you said, he's starting to see, oh, these are people in ads. He sees a girl on a billboard. He meets her at a party. He sees these hoes in this, in this movie. So like you said, they're all trying to get in the scene, get attention, get noticed. And big surprise, turns out they're also prostitutes. He's pleasuring himself later in the movie, raunchy scene. But he notices in one of the dirty mags he sees this ad for escorts, and it was the chick that was in the independent movie who was also the hoe of the pirate.
Well, yeah, and the sequence that it leads up to it, it's the perfect like the whole millennials reality, right? So he goes home, he's like stoned playing Mario with his friend, and his friend's got a fedora on. He's I pulled up a screen here. I've got the
He's the total skeptic, fedora hipster. I mean, fedoras are the atheist retards, but for all intents and purposes, the same type of dude.
Yeah, he's like the standard hipster guy. He's got this lame little tattoo on his arm and stuff, and he's playing Mario.
The glasses, yeah.
He's got the glasses, and he's got some video game themed sweatshirt. And the dude's laying there, he's stoned, and he's reading through this book about like code breaking or something like that.
Yeah, he starts reading about ciphers and codes because he's heard that the vampires have a backmasking a subliminal message in one of their records, one of their songs.
And then he starts
And
listening
so
to the song
he
backwards.
starts listening. He's intrigued with the idea. And so he's reading about ciphers and codes, and he finds out, oh, this is a real thing. There really are ciphers and codes. And there's this important scene that a lot of people forgot because he got squirted by a skunk when he was out doing his investigations, which is kind of funny because he keeps stinking all throughout the movie. He smells like shit.
Even before he got squirted by the skunk, did you notice that they introduced the theme of him smelling, or everything smelling in his apartment, even before the skunks did?
That's funny. Yeah. So he gets squirted by the skunk, and he's having to wash in tomato juice, and his halfway girlfriend, that's this actress that he's just sleeping with, shows up. She comes over, and she's like, and she had noticed too when she was there a few nights before that he has these notebooks by his bed where he's been writing about codes in pop culture, but he's scared to tell anybody because he thinks, they're gonna think I'm crazy, so he keeps it to himself. So then he decides to divulge this to her because he's noticed a lot more things. He's like, do you ever think the elite, live completely different and they speak to one another in codes, and maybe all the stuff in pop culture is actually about something else? It's not just pop culture, it's also sending a message, and maybe there's meanings being conveyed, and maybe rich people actually run shit. And she's like,
It's like,
you sound crazy.
You said
sound
that.
insane. Yeah.
Don't you just want to fuck and eat saltines and drink orange juice?
So he can't tell anybody because he knows it sounds crazy, but he's getting deeper and deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole, and it is eventually going to completely obsess him. Pop culture and mainstream media are coded languages that operate on multiple levels. So he starts noticing predictive programming. He says maybe rich people actually know things, and they know more than we do. And we don't know shit. That's what he tells her, and she's like, yeah, whatever, you're insane. Let's see. Then we introduce the hobo characters. Sorry. So after all this, he starts tracking down this message that's in the songs of this dumb band. And I forget how he breaks it, but it's something to do with like the different chords in the song correspond to letters or something like that.
Yeah, I mean it's some kind of schizophrenic sounding, thing. And what I thought was funny is when he had his revelation, like his whole revelation thing is all tied in with him masturbating. Right. So
that was weird. Yeah.
It's like the millennials version of like their satanic, divine revelation comes through them masturbating.
Sex magic.
Yeah. Pop culture.
In fact, Crowley even said that the masturbation should be directed energy and sex magic. Mm-hmm. So it's not just pleasure. You're supposed to get, enlightenment and revelation out of even masturbation. So,
and when he's jerking off, he's got a screen pulled up right here. He's got Kurt Cobain poster right behind him, which is, I just always think that's interesting. There's a lot of Kurt Cobain references.
There are, because he's a big fan of Nirvana and Kurt Cobain. He almost idolizes them, and that's relevant because when he gets to the old rich man's going to shatter his idols. He's going to tell him that his idols didn't even write their own songs.
Yeah. So he's jerking off, and I just thought it was so funny. The pictures he's jerking off to, it's just all these old magazines and like just weird picture. He's got People magazine. He's got this old version of this old Playboy that I guess he says earlier that it was his first porn or something like that, right? So he's got this mythologized, pornography thing in his mind, and his revelations come when he's jerking off to pop culture, trash magazines that are just sitting there on his.
That is an interesting point. So it's almost like pop culture itself is masturbatory. It doesn't even have any meaning beyond just completely sterile, empty wastefulness, basically.
Yeah, right. And I guess that's his procreative energy, right? Like this energy he could be using to find a wife, to make children, to make his maybe improve on his culture, or try and somehow be a reasonable, or not reasonable, but a virtuous person. It's just it all gets used for chasing women, getting his car back and getting money, and just this weird chasing down of this esoteric illusion in pop culture that ends like in him figuring, like almost being human sacrificed himself, right? Actually, his whole journey ends up in him almost giving in.
Good point. Yeah, I mean that's the thing is if he idolizes these people who are these mavens of pop culture. And so he's in the scene, he's hanging out with people in the scene. He's realizing they're all ridiculous. He's realizing they're basically just prostitutes. And so he's starting to see that the star making machinery is a giant, apparatus that creates this stuff. It's not actually genius musicians who, just rise to the top because of their amazing, phenomenal talent.
Right.
Right. That's the mythology that's getting crushed here. And so he's realizing it's not just about his musicians that he likes, but it's also about, the actors and the actresses in these films that he likes. So he's realizing these codes are real. He doesn't know what to do. Our world is full of these codes. He starts noticing it everywhere. Billboards, video games. He's starting to see symbols, codes, right? So he's awakened in a sense.
And Nintendo Power Magazine becomes his another one of his ciphers too. So it's just all pop culture is leading him down this path to some sort of an ultimate end and some sort of realization.
Right. I can't read my notes here in a couple of these places, but
he wrote it in cipher.
So basically, yeah. So what this cipher tells him to do. Oh, this is the Griffith Observatory. So this is important. So the cipher tells him, if you figure this out, go to the Griffith Observatory and rub the head of Newton, which is a statue, a bust of Newton there, or is it James Dean?
It's James Dean.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
And I've been to that. And if you go to the Griffith Observatory, what's weird about it is that the whole thing is super Masonic. Like, it's super occultic. Everything about the architecture, the symbolism, the whole thing is mega Masonic. So I thought that was significant. So he goes there, he rubs the head of James Dean, and this hobo shows up who's the king of the hobos. And he doesn't know what to do. He's like, what? Is this real? The hobo says, put your blindfold on. Masonic blindfold, right? The hobo leads him to a bomb shelter underground and locks him in there. So he's underneath LA. And by the way, there are reportedly tunnels all under LA. But so he's under there and he doesn't know.
He blindfolds him, right? Just like, this kind of Masonic initiation. And then,
right.
And then they see that they see a coyote on the way, right? Or he hears the coyote because he's blindfolded.
He says the coyotes, we follow the coyotes because they tell us more than anybody else, or something like that. Coyotes are here to help us, or something.
They're spiritual animals. It's got this kind of like hokey spirituality that
it's this weird animistic, very sort of simple pagan type view. But that will come up later with the elite, the billionaires. But so he realizes down there that there's this giant all-seeing eye above this bomb shelter underground. And he's like, what is this? And it turns out it's just an old bomb shelter that's being renovated for somebody to live down there. So he's like, what? So he follows this hallway and he crawls up, and he crawl out of the coffee shop at the beginning? I think there's he finds this
yeah. Well, the bomb shelter is weird because there's plastic all over it, right? There's it's got these plastic covered. I've got it pulled up.
It's being renovated for another billionaire to go down there.
And there's toilets. There's 5 toilets in a row at the end of the room. Just really weird.
That's because each billionaire has 3 or 4 wives.
Right.
So he's like, so there's an old bomb shelter that's being renovated. I don't get it. He crawls out. There's a secret exit passage that I think lets him out in the coffee shop that we see at the beginning.
There's a passage, but it's kind of like, it reminds me of those old 90s videos, remember, with exploring the pyramids, finding the secret chamber. It looks like he's climbing to the king's chamber of the pyramid or something like that.
Yeah, and he just comes up out of the kitchen in a stupid coffee shop. It's very cartoonish in that regard.
But, he comes out and he's behind. I've got it pulled up right now. He comes out and he's in the milk aisle of a convenience store.
Oh, it's okay.
So, and then he grabs, and this is another one of the only scenes where somebody consumes food. He opens up the milk and drinks the milk from the display there, and then he takes off.
Okay. So let's see. We're progressing here. So he discovers. Oh, this is where he gets to the part where he calls his buddy and he's like, turns out the conspiracy theorist has been killed. And he goes and he looks at the conspiracy theorist's surveillance cameras because he had them all set up. And the surveillance camera caught the owl, this owl-headed woman who shows up. And supposedly if she gives you a kiss, that means you're about to die. So he's assassinated basically by whoever's running shit.
Yeah, she kind of looks like an Egyptian deity or something, right?
She looks like, exactly, a owl-headed deity of some kind. And then so he starts getting freaked out because he thinks, uh-oh, they're gonna know about me. He calls his buddy who's a scene guy, one of the guys in the scene, and he's like, hey, can you get me in touch with the Seven Brides singer? He's like, I need to ask some questions. He's like, yeah, we're having a chess party. Everybody's getting fucked up and playing chess. So come on over. So they go to the party, and everybody at this party is all the people he's been seeing the entire time throughout the movie. So it's all these hoes and thoughts from the rest of the movie are at this party. They're all playing chess, which is just to be ironic. And then he punches Dracula in the bathroom. We see the poop, and he's like, who wrote your song? He's like, I didn't write my song. He's like, it's just the company gives us those, and they tell us what to do.
Oh no, I think he says something like, oh, I wrote some of the songs, but all the ones, not the hits. All the hits, they just told me what to write. Like they told me, they told me how to perform it. I don't do nothing. I don't know nothing. And he's very weak, and this character, he's not like this powerful.
He's a fraud. Yeah, he's basically just an actor, basically.
Yeah, and he's portrayed in the media in this film. He's portrayed as this like amazing esoteric, like badass, like rebel, like so satanic and so sick, dude. But he's just a pussy.
He's real total weak wussy. Yeah. And so Andrew Garfield says, all right, he overhears something about these really, really rich dudes that have like their own neighborhood where they have elite parties. And he asks the redheaded actress prostitute that he saw earlier. He invites her over. He sees her ad, calls her, tells her to come over. She shows up, and he's like, hey, take me to this elite neighborhood where you had these parties. I want to see who's running this shit.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah. She's like, you can go to every house except one house. There's one house you're not allowed to go to. So naturally, that's the house he wants to go to. So he gets the hose, take him to this neighborhood. He finds this one house. That's the one you can't go to. And he breaks in. And he finds some old dude playing piano, writing songs. And there's every kind of guitar, all kinds of, lavish instruments everywhere. And he's like, what is this? And basically, spoiler alert, the rich guy says, oh, yeah, your entire pop culture going all the way back to 50s or 60s. He's like, I wrote all that. He's like, that's all me. He's like, you like Nirvana? I'm Nirvana. You like Britney Spears? Whatever.
He starts playing these songs at his piano. It's just like, you think these artists actually wrote this? This was all me. And it
was all created, and the stars are just the fronts. They're part of this machinery. They don't even write most of their songs. This guy writes most of the songs, right? This is essentially Dave McGowan type research here. And Andrew Garfield freaks out and takes a guitar and busts this old dude in the head.
The guitar that he takes is Kurt Cobain's guitar too.
So he takes Kurt Cobain's guitar, busts, because he can't fathom that the pop culture that he idolizes, that he's controlled by, the mind control is breaking down. So he just basically loses his shit. He can't take it.
Yeah. Well, his whole reality is based on this pop culture consumption of these, the music, the foods, the partying. It's all the imagery. It's all pop culture trash. It's manufactured just like Fruity Pebbles are manufactured.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's all synthetic. It's essentially junk food for the mind, for the soul. Yeah. The pop culture is the junk food that the junk food is to the body, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's realizing they're all hoes. It's all a scam. It's all a facade. It's all a front. I've decoded this, and he's like, there's something behind this. So he's going to track down the billionaires now. Now he's ready. He figures out that one of the chicks, I'm sorry, I forgot. There's a whole nother level to the cipher. There's another layer of the cipher, which is the Zelda map matches up to the map of in the box of cereal. And that map lays on top of the map of LA, which tells him where the billionaires are chilling in their huts and in their fallout shelters. So he decodes all this. He tracks down one of the last places he hasn't gone yet, which is some weird marking over by the Hollywood sign, right across from it. And there's this hut. And he goes in this hut, and there's a couple of the hoes that he's seen before. And this old boomer age white dude in there with looking like a Jesus hippie type guy. And they have this really awkward, hilarious conversation that's very innocuous and very silly. And he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, we're preparing our tombs." He's like, "Your tombs?" He's like, "Yeah, we're going to ascend." And he's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, we don't believe in heaven and all that stuff. We believe in, like Egyptian religion, like pharaohs. We're going to ascend and go to another realm away from this crazy world. We've already had all the pleasures and fun that we could. So we're going to entomb ourselves in these fallout shelters, surround ourselves by concrete so we can't get out, and we're going to die with our 3 or 4 beautiful brides." So he can't believe this, and he's like, "Can I talk to the chick that I liked from the beginning of the movie?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, she's in another one of the shelters. Let me pull her up on Skype." Right. So they pull her up, and she's like, "Hey, did you get a new puppy dog?" And he's like, "You're gonna die." And she's like, "Do you think I made the right decision?" And the other billionaire's like, "Hey, don't upset her. She's enjoying herself." So it's all very just blasé, very apathetic.
Yeah,
And I think
life, death, like, oh, whatever, dude. It's all
everything is
good.
apathetic, right? Nothing matters.
Mm-hmm.
And even the billionaire elites who believe in this cult. And what's funny is that the wives, they all buy into like the new agey basic bitch bullshit, right? That they're going, "I'm going to ascend through, meditation and consciousness and all this nonsense." And the billionaires are a little more, maybe this guy believes it, maybe the other ones don't. They're a little
Yeah.
more cynical, maybe.
Yeah.
They just see it as a way to, 1,000 years from now, who's going to know who anybody was outside of, the tomb, right? If you look back at the ancient world, who do we know? Well, we know about pharaohs because they had giant pyramids and tombs, right? Or maybe there's a transhumanist element to it where they think they're going to be, resurrected or something like that.
And the
I don't know,
billionaires,
but
they're not super old guys though, they're killing themselves. They're kind of like just past their prime, right? They're like maybe
yeah,
like
they're
in their
based.
50s or something, maybe late 50s max. So they're just, they've worn out all their sensory perception so much with all their
Exactly.
sex,
Yeah,
drugs, and rock and roll that
they're
you're just like,
blunted to
fuck.
all the pleasures. Yeah.
They don't want to live anymore. Like maybe they don't get the same pleasure out of their body anymore. Or
Since
something.
they could control everything else, the last thing that they wanted to control was when they would die, so that they wouldn't be subject to somebody else determining when they die. They're going to decide when they die. They're going to determine the manner in which they die. So it's a final kind of act of rebellion from their perspective in this kind of satanic way. But so the interesting part of that is that all throughout he has noticed that all of the synchronicities are real, the conspiracies are real. It applies to pop culture. It's a controlled top-down system. You don't rise in it unless you're compromised and a whore and all this stuff. But the message of it seems to be when Andrew Garfield gets back and the reality of this world hits him, he realizes, I can't even pay my rent. My car got repossessed. He's like, what's the point, basically?
Mm-hmm.
And so the weird ending of this is this sort of millennial nihilism, this hedonism of just, you know what, I should just move in with that hippie chick that I was spying on at the beginning, the hippie boomer chick with her boobies out. I'll just move in with her. It's almost like, in other words, like it's like, okay, so all of this conspiracy stuff is all true. It's very true. It's all run by very wealthy elite people. But so what? What's the point, man? I mean, I'm not saying that the movie is totally nihilistic, but it's almost like it's asking that question. Well, what is the point? No one's going to believe this. Nobody's going to go down the rabbit hole that far. It's too crazy. So it's all a bunch of hoes and thoughts.
He talks to to the king of the bums at the end too, right? Doesn't the king of the bums kind of release him
Yeah,
from the
I forgot about
tomb? And he tells him, "Don't
Yeah.
tell anybody about this, or I'll kill you," basically, or something like that.
Yeah, he's like, okay, yeah, you figured it all out. We should kill you, but we're gonna let you go, and just keep your mouth shut. And
And then and then he goes home, and then he suddenly decides that he wants to go back and go reconcile his whole life by moving in and sleeping with this old boomer who keeps birds in cages all around her house.
yeah, so I guess this is the point where it's somewhat debatable. Is the message of the movie, yeah, it's all real, just give up on it, or is the message of the movie, don't even worry about all this conspiracy nonsense? There's no point in getting into it. It's just going to drive you nuts. Just enjoy the life that you have, and don't try. It's almost like don't try to go after understanding other elite classes. You're never going to understand it. If you've read there's a famous book called The Magus that I reference a lot in my first book.
Mm.
And the Magus is a similar story. It's a famous literary work by John Fowles, and it's basically about some guy who's like, this nihilistic 25-year-old uh, Oxford grad who's just kind of sleeping around, partying his way, drugging his way through Europe, and he ends up on this island uh, off of Greece called Fraxos, made up island, and it's owned by this Greek billionaire who's this very in tuned esotericist, occultist, and psychologist. And what the billionaire likes to do is set up scenarios with actors, crisis actors, basically, just to test how this nihilistic guy reacts. So he puts him through all kinds of very bizarre scenarios just to mess with the dude. And I won't spoil the novel, but essentially at the end of the novel, it does reference him as a member of the Illuminati. Okay, so this Greek billionaire who's in the Illuminati is basically just studying the effects of his phenomenon on this nihilistic 24-year-old.
Yeah.
The
That's
end of
similar
the book,
theme. Yeah.
the end of the book is basically what was the point? What were you trying to do by because the guy gets baited into going down the rabbit hole. He's like, I'm gonna figure this guy out. I'm gonna expose him. I'm gonna see what this is all about. And then at the end of the thing, it's like you don't even understand that class. Like you're not in his class of elite. The same thing that Bill Harford, Eyes Wide Shut, right? He's
Right.
like, I thought I was at the top of the totem pole. I thought I was the shit, man. Yeah, same idea. Like I'm the shit. Like I'm the fucking coolest motherfucker around here. Like I don't give a shit about anything. And then he goes down the rabbit hole and he realizes he's not at the top of the totem pole. There's people way above him, way more powerful, way more intelligent. And it's almost like, man, what was the point? So
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
what do you think what do you think the point of the movie is?
Well, all right. So the ending of the movie, I'm not so clear about, but I basically, pop culture as a an initiation for an entire generation and for the youth and for basically everybody into a mystery religion, into a
Yeah.
specific worldview, into seeing the world a certain way, consuming your life in a certain way, and thus just being consumed in this big machinery of pop culture and becoming a piece of this silly kind of basically nihilistic realm. And I don't know what to make of the end. There's something with the generational divide, right? It starts with him talking on the phone with his mom,
Oh, that's right.
staring
Yeah.
at this lady through the binoculars, and she's like she's like one of those yoga chicks, like those new agey, like sex magic type people who are just so free
She's a boomer
and
hippie. Yeah.
liberated. I mean, lots of these boomer hippies kind of haunt the the town I live in. So I'm really familiar with this type of energy. They're really into
Right.
yoga and you know
Mhm.
Joseph Campbell and stuff like that. So it's
No,
basically
when I spoke, yeah, I spoke in Topanga Canyon, and essentially the whole audience was this.
well, right, topless 60-year-old women who are
Mhm.
sleeping in a polyamorous relationship with some 25-year-old dude. Probably, there's it's weird. Like there is a world of this type of
Yeah,
stuff. And I don't know what to make of the ending. So it's something to do with his mother, the generational divide, how,
I forgot about the mother stuff. That's a good point. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Perhaps how like the boomers were initiated in this very same way with the sex, drugs,
They
rock and
began
roll.
this. Yeah, they're the '60s counterculture, right? Right.
And I see it as like the millennial and the boomer copulating in the end of the film, basically, just as
Mm,
the ultimate kind of really gross and not very pleasant to even think about reality of what pop culture has done to everybody.
yes, yes. Because the old guy who creates all the music, he is essentially he also says all your '60s revolution music. He says I created all that.
Exactly.
He says I gave you a revolution. That's why it's the boomers. Exactly. That's a good point. So it's basically boomer age to now. He's like that was all completely created from the top down,
And
and
that,
that's essentially Dave McGowan's book. We're seeing inside the canyon. That's the whole point of the book.
yeah, I would wonder. I'm sure that whoever directed this and wrote it read those books. He had to have. He's very familiar, obviously, with the culture and with what people are saying about pop culture. But I guess the last scene is him. He goes out to balcony, and he's in that boomer's house, or the boomer's apartment, which is in the same apartment complex as him, right? So him,
Right, just right across. Yeah.
yeah, so they're in this same curated environment that they don't own, right? You don't own your apartment. You live in an apartment building, and he's smoking a cigarette around these birds in the cages, and he's watching I guess it's like the cops or something. Or no, it's the apartment, the guy who owns the apartment is looking at the weird symbol on the wall, and trying to figure out, well, where did this kid go? He owes me rent, or he owes me money, or some shit. And Andrew Garfield's kind of looking at him really like creepy, stoned, demonic gaze. And then I think it rolls the credits after that.
I was trying to remember. Yeah, this is the guy who did It Follows, which was a pretty good horror movie. If you saw that, David Robert Mitchell.
I'll have to check it
out. It Follows was pretty good. It's pretty creepy. And the idea there was similar to this in the sense of the millennial age people living hedonistically, and are there consequences for that? And then if you know, it's like the urban myth of something coming after you, like it's going to get you, that kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I've watched It Follows a few times, and there's a bunch of references to Dostoevsky in it. So I'm not exactly sure what I think the reference to Dostoevsky means, but it's a pretty good horror movie if you like independent. It's not gory. It's just kind of creepy.
Yeah, no, I'll check it out.
So he's definitely referencing, literary works. Dostoevsky. Here he's in, this one he's referencing a lot of David Lynch. And by the way, I had actually messaged the chick that's in It Follows. We had a few messages on Facebook. I was trying to get her to come on and do an interview, and I thought she was going to do it, but she ended up backing out. But that would have been interesting because I've only had one actress ever come on Jay's Analysis. They're always too scared it's going to damage their career.
Yeah.
But it would be funny to get the vantage point of somebody who's, in the film to see.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about the movie overall? Did you enjoy it? I mean, it's kind of long. I think it was a little lengthy.
It is long. That doesn't bother me. I enjoy the use of symbolism, the use of satire. It's very comedic. It's funny in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Overall, it's a great critique of, as you said, all the nihilism, the hedonism, consumerism, the video game vantage point of the millennial generation.
Right. Voyeurism, total detachment from yourself.
Right. Synthetic reality. What exactly the ending means is up for debate. I'm not sold that my interpretation of it is right. I'm not sure, because I didn't even think about the boomer, the age gap stuff. And it's not just the age gap; it's also class. Like he's trying to, because we forgot about the billionaire's daughter. Like he's trying to step into the world of the billionaires, and he has this date night with the billionaire daughter.
Right.
They go swim in the pool. She's topless. He thinks he's going to get some, and she ends up getting shot. Right. So he's like realizing there's bigger players at work than him. Do I really want to be in that world? So
yeah. I think the apartment, it's kind of interesting, right? So it's the building that you don't own, and him and the old boomer hippie lady, they both live in it, but separately. And eventually, through the process of the movie, they come together, and they basically are living in the same place. He can't afford rent, so he's over there in the boomer's place where she's got all these birds in cages. And so, yeah, I mean, it's definitely social engineering, and there's a lot of themes in it. I feel like a lot of these directors, sometimes they don't even understand why they put certain things in it, right? It's like, well, that feels mysterious. Let's do that.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw Neon Demon. I felt that way about Neon Demon. It's talking a lot about Hollywood being this machine that eats people up and spits them out, and it's got witches in there, and they're doing rituals, and then, if you spoiler alert, the model gets killed at the end and basically eaten.
Oh wow!
And you're just like, what does this mean? Well, it's all nihilistic, and they're laughing at the end, so it's kind of like, oh, it's all a big joke, and like you said, like he's got all this stuff in there that's significant, but what does he even know what it means?
Yeah, and then, of course, video game culture was really big in this. The food was all, the imagery on the boxes of cereal.
I'm glad you noticed that.
Yeah, right. Like the foods they eat and stuff. It's just somebody shows up. His girlfriend shows up in the beginning, or not his girlfriend, but some chick they use each other to masturbate. She comes over and she brings sushi, right? And then she's like, this whole place smells. And they eat sushi, and then he eats like saltine crackers, and then basically beer and cigarettes for the rest of the movie. It's like all
And
they consume.
a cookie, yeah, it's all junk. That's
Oh,
a
and then
great
a
point.
cookie that sends them on this psychedelic journey too.
Right.
A sugar cookie. Yeah, so I mean,
Which
it's
is kind
just
of Alice in Wonderland too. I didn't even think about that's Alice in Wonderland.
uh
Yeah,
huh, uh huh. And it was that scene was very similar to Eyes Wide Shut too. When he walks
it
in, they use
was.
a similar camera angle, walking behind him, just like Bill Hartford. So
Right.
yeah, I
Right.
enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of long. I was tired when I watched it, but then when I looked through it and scrolled through it later on, I thought it was it was pretty well put together, entertaining.
Yeah,
Andrew
I think
Garfield's a good
the
actor.
most important takeaway was the pretty clear revelation that the pop culture is manufactured.
That was the best
No,
scene. The best scene was the
yeah,
old man telling him, "Look, your whole reality is false, and I wrote all these songs, and none of these are real stars." I like that one.
yeah.
Um, so
Before we do Spring Breakers, I gotta take a pee break.
go for it, man. I'll read some super chats here.
Okay.
Um, let's see here. All right, Nick Jones. What's up, Nick Jones? That was at the very beginning of the stream. He says, "Thanks, both of you. Hands down, my two favorite channels on YouTube. Love the book, Jay. Thanks. Right on, Nick. Did you get the second book, too? I haven't got Jay's second book yet. My brother, he's flying out here. I sent it to him. He's going to bring it with him. So I'm looking forward to reading Jay's next book. His second book, Esoteric Hollywood 2. Um, yeah, his website, Jay's website, by the way, one of my favorite sites. One of the very few sites that actually pay for a subscription to. He does lots of theology lectures, and he's got such a wealth of like just such a huge back catalog of essays on everything from history, geopolitics, theology. I think the theology section is a real gem of his website too, and of course, esoteric analysis of films and whatnot. So check out his website, guys. In memory of John Mordaunt says, "My boy has less SPD symptoms with real food. Thanks for all you do." Right on. Thanks a lot. You're a regular viewer. You're always jumping in here. Bob Monk, he sent some money, but he's not even asking anything. Right on. Infinite microsecond. I'll ask that question when Jay gets back. Thanks for the super chat, man. Sending $10. Doorman says thanks for the stream, guys. Showing some love. Eat meat, make families, and hashtag bald man bad, and hashtag beard man bad. Well, thank you, my friend. I agree. Hashtag bald man bad. Hashtag beard man bad. Now, let's see here. Tyler Sutton says, two of my favorite YouTube personalities. Be sure to share with Jessica. I appreciate her answering my emails. I would like Jay to do more on his channel about the Jordan Peterson phenomenon. All right, I'll let Jay know you said that when he gets back. And then Sir Deluxe sends $5 without saying anything. Thanks a lot, man. Get this mosquito flying in my face. Las Vegas Carnivore, what's up? Alex the Carnivore, Tyler, Tumble Bear, Metal Slug 17, bunch of people in the chat today. Let's see what's going on. We got a much smaller audience than usual. We're doing a fun little stream today. No clickbait titles. We're just doing some film analysis and having fun. Talking about some funny millennial movies. Mike's in the chat. What's up, man? So yeah, next we're going to talk about Spring Breakers. Spring Breakers, which is actually it's like a horrific movie. Spring Breakers is a horror film also. Probably one of the more haunting films that I've seen over the last decade. I don't know why, but for some reason, Spring Breakers really disturbed me. Watching this film, it was just, there was something about it, something about the aesthetic of it, something about how this movie was made, how this film was made, that is just really haunting, and it's so reflective of the millennials pop culture curated world. Jay's back. What's up, Jay? Hey, we had one super chat from somebody asking, is yoga acceptable in Orthodox Christianity? So is yoga cool with Eastern Orthodoxy? What is the stance on yoga?
No, traditional yoga involves, Hindu practice and, Kundalini opening of the serpent power force in the spine. Crowley was a big proponent of blending yoga with Western thought. So it's intentionally done to invoke deities. Now, Pilates, stretching, anything like that, obviously no, not. That's fine, but yoga itself, no, would not be compatible with Christianity.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how popular yoga became. It really got big in the U.S. after the '60s when you had the huge Crowleyan push and
And the Beatles pushed it, right?
yeah. So I mean, who really popularized yoga in the West? Was it? It almost seems like Crowley was the guy who really brought it out in the West.
Yeah, I think you can make that case. I mean, the Chicago World Fair of Religions in the 1890s featured the first yogi trying to introduce the idea to the West, and what that was kind of the pioneer ecumenical service.
Yeah.
It was, how do we get all the religions together in the West? And it was just a form of social engineering. It was being promoted by the elites. After the 1890s into the 20th century, you had Swami Vivekananda, or Sri. I forget. I get all these.
I think it was Vivekananda or something, right?
Yeah, Vivekananda, and then there's another guy who's. They started also simultaneously pushing the New Thought movement, and that turned into positive thinking, and all those forces coalesced in the New Age movement with the Esalen Institute and all that, and so there's always been big money behind that influence of
Right.
Far
So it's
Eastern
not
thought.
like actually moving your body and stretching out your legs or even it seems like that maybe isn't so bad, but when you connect it with all these other ideas and the pranic breathing, breathe the prana into your body and all this stuff, it definitely gets pretty deep into some Hindu stuff.
Well, you're supposed to put your body into, it's kind of like the way Hindus do the ritual dancing. You're putting your body into the god forms. These are god forms that are intended to invoke the energy of that god. And so ultimately, no, that would be demonic, because the purpose of all the Eastern meditation, which is pretty ridiculous, is to annihilate the ego, to annihilate the self.
Right.
I mean, God didn't create you as an individual person to annihilate the you, right? You're not supposed to annihilate the you and dissolve into the oneness of all being and nirvana. That's not why you were created. So ultimately, all the Far Eastern religions are satanic at root.
There you go. It's a pretty in-depth answer there. Somebody said he wants to see more Jordan Peterson stuff on your YouTube channel. Tyler Sutton says Jay's got to do more on Jordan Peterson on his YouTube channel. I would say, as far from what I've heard Jay talk about the Jordan Peterson phenomenon, he's kind of said what needed to be said. I mean,
how many times do you have to critique, Carl Jung and evolution, and there's not much there. It's pretty fat, it's shallow, thin stuff coming out of Jordan Peterson. It's
and if you look at Jay's website, when you have so much stuff on critiquing classical liberalism, critiquing the liberal imperium. Maybe if you guys sign up for his members section, which is really cheap. Is it $60 for the year still?
It is $4.95 a month if you want to do it monthly, and growing archive. But there's about 3 years worth of backed up archive material back there. Lectures on Plato, lectures on tragedy and hope, globalist books, all kinds of stuff there.
What would you say would be like a good avenue of research, even going through your website, for some people who are interested in deeper stuff? What kind of keywords would they be looking at, and what type of, what aspects of philosophy and history would they want to look at if they want to see what your views or expand on, maybe the critique that you've put out there on Jordan Peterson's philosophy and his ideas?
But particularly on Jordan Peterson, I would say the 30-40 minute video that I did, that's a critique of him, that's a two-parter, that's had about 25,000 views. That's probably the best one, which is funny because when I did that video, the likes to dislikes were about equal. It was like I don't know, 200 likes, 200 dislikes, and in the last year since I did that video, a lot of my critiques have been vindicated. A lot of people have abandoned the Peterson cult. They've realized that he started cucking pretty hard. He came out against men, came out against individualism. He's supposed to be this great individualist, and saying all these really contradictory things. And so people started, I think, realizing that he's not all he was cracked up to be. Oh, it turns out he's invited to the Trilateral Commission. He's speaking there. He's obviously an establishment creation. Fox Day did a whole bunch of critiques of him. So now the likes to dislike ratio is like 700 to 150. So it's evened out, I would say, public opinion. I think there's still a lot of
I think you were
normies
one of
that
the
are
first
atheists.
people who actually critiqued Peterson's philosophy, right? I mean, everybody was so enamored,
That's
and
what
you're
made
like,
everybody so mad. Yeah, it's like I had a critique, and then right around the same time, Box Day started critiquing him, and then I think Owen Benjamin critiqued him after that. So yeah, he's gotten
yeah,
more and more critiques, but so I would say that video, and then Tim Kelly and I have done 2 talks where I critique the Petersonian worldview,
yeah,
and he's come up in other shows too that I can't remember off the top of my head, but
yeah.
there's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
a whole lot.
Peterson, he
Yeah,
seems like a guy who's he's a boomer, he's an academic. It's probably very hard in that situation to see outside of that box at all, to ever critique the roots of classical liberalism or Darwinism, Marx or not Marx, but Jung.
Carl Jung's Gnosticism. Yeah, I mean Jordan Peterson is essentially just a modern day Gnostic, a modern day Origenist, a modern day catch-all. It's like a cross between Tony Robbins and I mean Vox Day had a good point about his rules for life, the Jordan Peterson rules for life, and they're all about you getting ahead. Don't worry about associating with people that don't advance your personal, name and brand, and it's just marketing bullshit, really.
Yeah. Tyler Sutton says I'm going to attend a local Serbian Orthodox church to get a feel for it. That's awesome, man. Good for
Yeah,
you. So you're
should
lucky,
be
man.
pretty
You're
good.
blessed because I've got a 16-hour drive, and it's not even an Orthodox church. It's just like a small Orthodox congregation that they don't even have a church building. Cause
It's a 16-hour drive from you.
16-hour drive, yeah. But
Wow.
I'm gonna get up there soon. It's still worth it to me. But
Wow.
yeah, it's we're in Catholic land down here, man. Now
Oh
we
yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
got the
That's right.
Pope. We got the Pope talking about got to get rid of nations and
Get rid of your borders, have globalism. It's so great.
oh man, yeah, we're kind of you think we thought when we came down to Latin America that we'd maybe get a couple generations until it all came full flood, but then the cell phones came and the smartphone came out.
Cell phones change everything.
Yeah,
Globalism right
man.
there.
Now, yeah, they started. Now they're trying to bring abortion into Ecuador.
Wow, really?
Yeah, well, it's slowly. They have to bring it in slowly. So that's like,
Hmm.
oh well, what if a lady gets raped? Then you gotta get the abortion. See, maybe that's good. But yeah, the Ecuadorians are still very much against it. But hey, I mean, it's
They're trying. They're going to do social engineering to try to,
yeah, 10 years probably max.
change opinion within 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, but abortion will be a rite of passage for all women in 10 years. Everybody's
Hmm.
sad. I hope not. God forbid. I hope not. And maybe a lot of these people end up leaving the Catholic Church with the current Pope. I mean, I got no problem with Catholics. I live in a Catholic country. A lot of good things about what Catholicism has done to maintain,
Hmm.
family unit, to keep some forms of degeneracy out of Latin America. But
Right.
I mean, with what this Pope is saying, it's getting pretty alarming.
Yeah, it is sad. I mean, I think he's going to be, it's going to be more and more evident that he's a definitely a tool of the globalists, and Roman Catholic Church has unfortunately been on that track, that path for many many decades, at least since Vatican II, and before that as well.
Yeah, right. Well, even when you look back further, it seems there were a lot of things that were just not quite right. Well, the whole Popeism thing has always been weird. But anyways, that's cool. Let's we got through all the super chats there. A few other interesting questions, but it's kind of off topic. So got a lively chat today. Got no trolls today too. I got a banned list. I got a miles long banned list on this channel.
Yeah, me too.
I love it.
I have no patience for any of that stuff.
No, I mean it's like, look, you're gonna derail the chat and turn it into something like it gets so annoying. You pop into the chat and suddenly everybody's talking about flat Earth. You're like, dude, I have no problem with you people believing in flat Earth. It's all good. Question everything, but please don't come and debate it in my chat when we're talking about nothing to do with it.
Talking about something totally different. Yeah.
So we got a good chat going on now. But yeah, what'd you think about Spring Breakers? Harmony
It
Korine.
wasn't what I expected. I remember when the movie came out, and I wasn't intentionally avoiding it. I just happened to miss it at the time. I've seen other Harmony Korine films. I remember when I was in high school. I think my senior year is when Kids came out. Kids had a pretty big impact, and it was controversial at the time because it was a Disney film. People, I think it was Miramax maybe, or one of the Disney subsidiaries did Kids, and it was pretty brutal, and it's about AIDS, transmitting AIDS amongst my generation, Gen X, and
Hmm.
nihilistic partying Gen Xers back then. Spring Breakers is his treatment of millennials, right? So
Yeah.
again, we have this theme of the mindless millennials, totally hedonistic, totally wild, savage, and the thoughts. I mean, this is about heartless millennial thoughts.
Yeah.
And
That
I
whole
I
idea.
liked your point that it's a horror movie. I didn't think that. I thought this was a goofy satire, silly thing from the trailer. Then when I started watching, I was like, "Is this a gangster movie?" And then I realized, oh, it's more of like a horror movie.
It's really horrific, right? And even when it starts out, so it starts out the first scene. First of all, it starts out with just saying "Spring Breakers," and it's got these glittery, like,
Yeah,
really pretty, pink and blue, and the colors so neon and pastel. And it starts out with just kids dancing at like an MTV style.
it is. It's very late '90s, mid 2000s, early 2000s MTV when they would broadcast Spring Break. Exactly.
Yep, yep. So the kids are dancing around. Let's see, I've got some screenshots pulled up here. There's beer bongs and they're pouring beer all over each other, and it's really gross. Like, it's very off-putting. It's very disgusting. And it's kind of sad to watch, and it's got this like Skrillex song, like do 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 do.
Wah, 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 wah,
Yeah,
wah.
so this industrial sounding music, and it shows the first shot of somebody actually consuming. Um, it's just they're drinking beer, they're pouring beer all over each other,
It's just debauchery. Yeah, it's like total debauchery. Yeah.
and it's really gross. So there's this chick, and she's sucking on a red, white, and blue um, popsicle, right? Like, that's the colors of the American
The
flag, and it's just
American pop. Yeah, right.
and it's slow.
Rocket pop. They call it rocket pop.
That's what they are. So that thing shows up like 3 times in the movie, or at least 2 times. One of the few foods they eat in the movie, and they're pouring. The guys are like standing around, fake pissing beer into girls' mouths. So there's a line of women or young girls, and they're naked or topless, and they're going like this. And the dudes are acting like they're peeing the beer into their mouth. So it's just this really gross representation of bodily fluids and just consuming poisons, and really destructive behavior and hypersexualized behavior. And then it cuts, and it's got the audio in the background, or it's got this dialogue from like a preacher, right?
Yeah, this idiot boomer evangelical preacher wearing Ed Hardy gear.
Yeah, yeah, he's got like Ed Hardy and like an Affliction T-shirt,
Yeah.
tattoos and chains and stuff, and he says we're gonna talk about temptation. We're
We're
gonna
gonna talk
talk
about temptation. Yeah.
we're gonna talk about Satan, and right when he says we're gonna talk about Satan, it cuts to this girl smoking a bong, and it's this red lit dorm room, totally weird setup in there.
Everybody's just passed out. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's high. Everybody they're watching. They're watching. Are they watching the Bronies? Is it like a Bronies reference? They're watching My Little Pony.
Yeah, they're watching My Little Pony.
You catch that?
Exactly.
And then the girl.
Yeah.
It shows Vanessa Hudgens is like do you know about her? Is she a Disney chick? Like a
Well,
Disney
there's
chick?
she's a Disney chick. Selena Gomez, I think, was Disney chick too. And the reason that's relevant is because, like I said, kids, Harmony Korine, that was a Disney movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's almost like Disney is telling us. Did you ever see that weird movie, Escape from Tomorrowland?
No. Is that a Disney movie? An
Yeah.
actual Disney movie?
Well, no, but it's hard to see how it couldn't be because supposedly they snuck into Disneyland to film an entire movie.
Come on.
Yeah, right. I don't buy that. So, but Escape from Tomorrowland is about basically the dark side of Disney. I mean, it deserves its own whole video because it's pretty deep, but it's kind of the same thing with Harmony Korine in the sense that, I mean, I don't think he works for Disney, but I'm saying you've got these two Disney princesses here, right?
Yeah.
Who are essentially portraying that Madonna horror complex, and even the Selena Gomez character, who's this naive, sort of simple evangelical chick who is tempted to go down with these hoes from her small town to Spring Break. Like, Spring Break is supposed to be this immortality state, this eternal. It's almost like they treat it like heaven, like we want this forever, it's being great forever.
Exactly. That we just want to get out of our reality. We got to get out of this place. We've got the same thing happening every day. We hate it here. It's so boring. We got to go to spring break, but we have no money, and that's their issue. These little girls, they have no money, and then one of them is Selena Gomez, that was Justin Bieber's girlfriend for a while.
Yep.
So she's
Exactly.
like this huge pop culture figure, and it shows her, and she's like in this kind of weird evangelical church situation, and everybody looks really empty there. She doesn't seem very happy.
And the childishness, they have them all singing like the clap your hands, Jesus loves you,
Amen.
clap your hands.
Hey, yeah, it's very, yeah, and it's funny because that contrasts with, it's kind of the same thing that they're doing there as the girls are doing at spring break, right? Hyping themselves up emotionally, and singing empty songs with that they don't really feel have any meaning.
Exactly. Yeah. And the irony of that was, I'm sitting here thinking there's no way that the cheese ball indoctrination of charismatic evangelicalism that she's involved in is not going to be enough to hold her back from the degeneracy when she gives into the plot, right? So
Yeah.
her hoe friends are like, let's do it. You got to be hard. You got to be hard. So you have these, 17, 18-year-old white girls who
Well, I guess they should be 18 because they're the first year of college. So they're
okay, 18. So they've been completely downloaded with the idea of like hardcore, rap, that they're hard and they got to show how hard they are. And they come up with this plot to rob like a little diner, which I don't know how I can't imagine some little diner in a small town having enough money to fund like this,
Well, how much would they really need, right? They're trying to get on a bus, go. Yeah. All they need to do is get on a bus, go get some cheap hotel room on the beach in Florida, and buy some booze for a few days. But I guess since they're girls, they don't have to buy booze. Like everyone will just shower them with drugs and alcohol.
That's a good point.
So maybe they don't need that much money.
I couldn't tell whether it was Daytona or
it was St. Pete's.
Oh, okay.
St. Petersburg, Florida. Yeah. I thought that was the intro to the film is actually really interesting because the way it juxtaposes the partying and then goes straight to the evangelical, like, children's group. They've got the Bibles in front of them, but they're not reading from it. They're just singing empty songs and stuff like that. And then it shows the girls in their class, and while they're learning about like the Reconstruction period during the Civil War in the lecture,
right,
they're drawing pictures of dicks and showing and pretending to lick them and saying, "I want penis." So I got a screenshot pulled up right there where she says she got a heart and it says, "I love penis" on it.
Yeah, so they're miserable in their small town. And
hypersexualized.
Like, you got to be hard. Don't be scared of nothing. Let's rob this mom and pop diner.
Would you notice the party? There was some really shocking imagery in the party they went to, right? So it shows this kind of college party, and the first shots it shows of it are all them sitting around a bonfire, right? So it shows Vanessa Hudgens smoking a bong load after they say, right, we're going to talk about Satan, and then it switches to her and she lights up the thing, and so there's the fire, and then she breathes in the weed smoke. There's a lot of references to breath, right? Like breathing in, and they breathe on each other a lot in the film. Like they blow smoke in each other's mouth. There's quite a few scenes with just referencing like inhaling, which would probably be referencing spiritual, God breathed the spirit of life into Adam.
Right. Good point.
So it's like this.
No, I didn't even notice that because I've only seen it once. So my first time through, I'm just looking at, like the basic level of the plot line. So a lot of the symbolism I miss, because the way I do movies is I'll watch them. If it's a good one that I feel like has a lot of depth to it, I'm going to watch it 2 or 3 times. Yeah. And you'll notice, you pick up stuff the more that, and some movies you can watch 5 times and you still haven't even picked up everything. But yeah, so that was a good point. I didn't even notice the breathing stuff.
There's quite a few references to that. Then they show they're at a party. They're at this college party, and it definitely reminds me a lot of the parties I saw when I was in college.
Right.
So they're pouring beer bongs down baby doll. They have this setup where they have a baby doll, and the beer bong goes through the baby's mouth and out of its where its genitals would be, and the college kids are doing beer bongs through this baby doll. So it's referencing, right, child abuse, force poisoning children.
Well, one of the lines that one of the thoughts, I think it was Vanessa Hudgens, she says, quote. She's like, "We got to do this. Don't be scared of nothing. Act like you're in a movie. Act
Mm,
like you're in a video game. You got to be hard."
exactly.
So her whole worldview is programmed by video games, rap music, and movies.
There's even a shot I've got it pulled up right now of a guy smoking weed through a baby doll. So he's
Wow.
the bowl of weed is in its mouth, and then he's sucking it through where it's like, where it's gentle. It's really horrible imagery. You barely notice it. There's baby dolls taped to the wall. There's a guy with a dead chicken on his head, and he's smoking out of a bong. So it's just really gross imagery.
Mm.
And then they start discussing what they got to do. Right, we gotta get this money. We gotta get this money, y'all. And it shows him snorting coke, which is like,
Right.
and then she has a gun. The girl actually has a squirt gun. Do you see that part? She's got a squirt gun. She squirts the
Yeah,
liquor
and
in her
she's
mouth.
like drinking alcohol and sucking on it like it's a PP, which comes up later in the growth scene with James Franco sucking the guns like
Oh
PP.
man, I forgot about that. That's one of the
I
most
was like, oh,
disgusting things ever put on film. James Franco filleting a gun, two guns, so bad. Yeah, James Franco, true degenerate.
and a big devotee fan of Crowley too, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. He directed, him and Kenneth Anger are real good friends, aren't they?
Good point. Yes. My next note says that we see him rapping, right, and he's called Alien. So
He's like,
he's
I ain't
this
from this
rapper.
planet, y'all.
He's like, I ain't from this planet. I'm here, and I'm gonna take you to another world and all this stuff. Almost like he is, like he's another being, like another. I see him as almost like a devil type character because
Mm-hmm.
he. What happens is, of course, they party hardy, and then they end up these two gross twin dudes with grills. These two
Ooh.
skanky white dudes trying to be thugs.
Uh,
They're supplying their party with drugs, and they end up getting arrested, right? So the girls all get arrested, and we almost think it was kind of by design because the two twins were at the party bringing the drugs.
mm-hmm.
They're working for riff raff for
Yeah.
James Franco, Alien. And so he busts them out of jail, and he's like, what's up, y'all? I just want to be nice, bust y'all out of jail, you know what I'm saying? Why don't y'all come chill with me? What's up? And then he starts immediately hits them with like, you know,
Mm.
y'all ever had a double dong inside
Yeah,
you?
yeah, no, that was so
Uh,
gross. Well, first what happened though is the girls robbed. You mentioned this. They robbed a diner to get some money. They had, but it's not Faith. So Faith is Selena Gomez's character, who's kind of the more innocent girl. Like she doesn't really want to be doing the drugs, but they're like, here, smoke this. Here, take. So but she has nothing to fight it with, right? There's no real resistance, even though you could tell she's not sold on it. She has no resistance, and you kind of nailed it when saying like, her worldview, because she's not connected to anything spiritually strong enough to oppose it, she can't.
yeah, it's very childish evangelicalism. It wasn't enough to convince her that this degeneracy wasn't appealing, this pure hedonism wasn't appealing. So she falls into it, pretty quick. But she's the one that starts having reservations because she does have at least some moral compass. Her friends have no moral compass whatsoever.
Right, right. They
And
go to this party. They once they finally get to spring break, they're just doing drugs. The chicks are, they become very kind of demonic, especially the blonde
exactly.
girls. So it
Yeah,
shows
they have
them.
nothing human about them. They're just completely. It's just evil after evil after evil, right?
There was that scene in the room where they're doing coke and stuff at this party, and one of those twins, who the twins, do you know who they are? They're actually like internet celebrities.
No, I didn't know that.
Those twins, they're called the ATL twins, and they're paralegals out of Atlanta, and they're like super into pills and stuff. They were internet celebs for a little while. Vice made them very popular. One of
Oh, well, there you go. Are
it
they
sh-
rappers? What do they
No, they're
do?
not even rappers. They're just like degenerate drug guys who like to have threesomes like that's their whole thing is actually, like James Franco
Ew.
says,
Oh, okay.
right? They're just degenerate. Like I don't know where they
So
come from.
two twin brothers that actually do like to share.
They share women. They had the same girlfriend for a while, so it's weird because it
Ugh.
blends the internet reality and
Oh,
it
I
shows
see.
them watching like Kimbo Slice fights when they're in the dorms
Right.
too. So there's the internet culture is already permeating, and this was 2013. This film came out. There was an
Right.
interesting image with the ATL twin guy. He's wearing a chain, and it's got a serpent's head on it, and a girl is filleting the serpent's head. It
I
shows
did
it
see
for
that part.
a couple seconds,
was-
and it's very graphic.
Yeah, no, they're like the hellhounds. They're like James Franco's two hellhounds, right? Like his demon dogs, right? Like Cerberus or whatever, the double-headed demon hound. And James Franco is this kind of alien demon type figure who rescues them to offer them this new way of living, right? Like, you come with me, be my harem, basically, and I'll give you the life that you want, because he overhears them talking about, I want to live in Florida forever. I want to be a spring ray forever.
Yeah.
Spring ray forever.
Well, and they get arrested, right? So they're arrested. They can't post bail, and he's sitting there all predatory, like in the audience or whatever for their court hearing. And it shows his grill in this really gross reveal shot where it's like, I've got it's the most disgusting mouth. And then he's sitting out there. He's got this like corny ass Camaro with dollar signs on the rims.
You think he's going to be like this badass, but he's actually kind of just a tacky, mediocre level gangster. He's not Scarface. Right?
Yeah,
he's
like
got
he
a
rents
shitty 1990s bed suit, outfit in his bedroom, and
his car's like
his
a
house,
98 Camaro or something with gay rims that have like dollar signs on them.
And he's got what would have been a really expensive house in the 70s, right? It's
Yeah.
got like 70s, style everywhere. And it's funny because if you watch Scarface, it's funny because in Scarface, when he renovates his mansion, it's very tacky. Like it's all expensive, but it's super gaudy and tacky. And he's like a B grade Scarface. Like he's like a knockoff Scarface with tacky shit everywhere, but he's really proud of it. He's like, I built all this. You see all this? I built all this. Is my shit. This is my shit.
That's one of the best scenes. That's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. Look at all my shit. Look at all this shit. I got Scarface on repeat.
I got nunchucks.
I got shurikens.
I got shurikens.
I got my dark tanning oil. Lay down by the pool with my dark tanning oil. But it's just that scene's amazing.
And he's got this stupid piano out by the by the pool and by the, which, like, he saw some rap video or some R&B video with R. Kelly out by the pool playing piano. He's like, I'm gonna put a pool out by the piano. It's gonna be sweet, dog.
Exactly. It's so funny. So what I thought was interesting too, though, is when he first meets the girls and they have their kind of reveal. The three girls, the three blonde chicks, are pretty into him. They're just like, yeah, this guy's kind of cool. They basically ask him, well, what do you want from us? What do you want? He's just like, I just want a party. And then he asks Faith her name. He's like, what's your name? And this scene is actually a very horrific scene. When he's talking, the ATL twins are sitting across from him. He says, like, what they're into, right? They're double penetration. Just really gross. Like, he graphically describes their sexual desires, and then they're smiling at him and licking their grills and stuff. And then he asks Faith. He says, what's your name? She tells him Faith. He's like, oh, that's interesting. Like, you believe in God. You got faith. Like, very, very aggressively, right? She's like, yeah. He's like, you did a lot of praying. You pray for your friends here. You do a lot of praying for your friends here. She's like, yeah. He's like, I was thinking. He's like, maybe that I'm the answer to your prayers. Maybe I'm the answer to your prayers. So he's like, steps in and just openly takes the Luciferian kind of, satanic, like, I'll replace God for you. I'll answer all your prayers. And then
I ain't from this planet. I'm from this planet,
y'all. But they go to his pad. They go to his pad, and I think that's one of the funniest scenes is when he shows them his house.
And he's also got his tattoo significant because it's a dollar sign, right? And that's what these alpha thoughts that have led Faith down this path. That's all they've been after this whole time, was that money. Get that money.
Yep.
And he's got the dollar sign tattoo.
On his neck.
On his neck. Oh, and then he reveals it a little bit ahead of time too when he talks about the sharks. He says, "Don't go swimming in that water at night. There's sharks, a lot of sharks." He says, "They're predatory animals, just waiting."
Yeah, larking.
Lurking.
They're
That's
larking.
Right. They lurking. There's sharks down there lurking.
He says it like 3 times. And so, something that I thought was interesting about the film, the editing, they loop a lot of things. So there's a lot
They
of
loop it.
dialogue that's
Yeah.
looped.
Good point.
I was telling
They
Jay
lurk
before we
it.
started,
They lurk
it's like it was edited by Skrillex.
like a rapper or like Skrillex. Yeah, like
Hmm.
da. Exactly.
So then they get in his car, they go on his ride, they're in his vehicle. He brings them to this like trap house party, right? It's he brings them to this house with these gangster
And
dudes.
it's like super ghetto, dude.
Yeah, and the vibe there, that scene, they actually apparently shot that, like those are all real gangsters, and the girls were actually legitimately freaked out. Um, I watched some of these interviews, and they're talking, and the girls were, the actresses said that they were legitimately scared of James Franco. Like he was always in character when they were filming,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like obsessive and really it was very 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 freaky to them. So yeah, they go to this trap house, and Faith freaks out. He has a conversation with her. Alien tries to get her to stay, and then she says, "No, I'm leaving." And then she leaves. She gets on the bus and like shows her hand against the window. It's like, "Oh, I'm going back to my life." So Faith actually gets saved from the debauchery that happens later on to a certain extent. Which I thought that was interesting. In a very satanic movie, the one character that, even though she has kind of a distorted connection to reality, she leaves this fake world.
Yeah, she was right. She knew that this wasn't going to go well. But what's interesting is that the real villains aren't who you think. The real villains aren't Gucci Mane, and they're not Alien.
Mm-hmm.
The real hard demons turn out to be other than what you think.
Yeah. Yeah, so when you first see Alien, he's like basically the Satan character, right? This guy seems like he's pure evil. And he's so hokey. He's kind of funny, but also really
He
frightening.
is right. He's corny. Yeah.
Super corny. But then there's something about the performance that's just, I mean, I'm not a fan of, like, I think James Franco's he seems like he's kind of a degenerate in reality, but he did put on really good performances in this.
Yeah.
Just artistically, he did a great job. And then let's see what happened next. Remember what happens next? I think
Let's
then
see.
they go to his house. Right?
We're introduced to Gucci Mane. Gucci Mane is the big time gangster. He's got the actual estate, whereas Alien is a mid-tier gangster. Gucci Mane's got the big estate. He gets in his face, says, "I brought you up, dog. I own these streets. I own these streets."
Yeah, only motherfucking
And
streets.
you can tell the Alien's resenting him. Alien wants, to be the big dog. He's jealous of him. He wants to be running the streets, but he's too scared to do anything. And so then we have this sequence where he's trying to basically get the gumption up to do something, and he's still scared. Gucci Mane pulls up and shoots his car, and a stray bullet hits one of those chicks in the arm, and that's almost enough to send him over. But then that chick goes home, right? Then she leave too.
Yeah. So
She's like, "I'm out of this. I got a bullet. I'm done."
Right. Yeah.
She leaves.
The girl that plays that actress, Harmony Korine, married that girl.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Weird, right? Yeah. So she ended up marrying him. I think she's still married to him. They have a kid.
Huh.
Yeah.
So then Alien's like, "All right, that's enough. That's enough." And the two remaining hoes basically have to sleep with him and, sort of build up his prowess, right?
Well, it seems like they
Get him because they want him to do it. They're the ones that are really wanting him.
They want to demonically influence him in a certain way. Like they're constantly trying to egg him on, and they think it's just entertainment.
Well, you think he's the predator. That's what the thing is. And those two chicks are the real predators. And you start to get that. And he almost legitimately looks scared when they grab the guns and make him suck the guns.
That's one of the most horrific parts, right? So
he actually starts looking scared, like, whoa.
Yeah, but then he loves it. Then he's like, ooh, like, and then he tells him, y'all my soulmates.
So now he's got a new set of hellhounds to work with him. And then the irony, I don't know what to make of the Britney thing, other than here we have Britney, another Disney princess, right, who's turned into one of these mind control hoes, Whore of Babylon type things, where she goes from innocent princess to Whore of Babylon, and they're all singing Britney songs, and by the way, there's
Yeah.
at least 2 Britney songs that come up in the movie.
Well, so there's the scene. All right, so they go to his house, but it skips around in time a little bit, right? Because it's
Yeah,
just the
it
two
does.
girls are in his bedroom, and he's showing them all his stuff. All right, maybe can you play audio, like brief clips of audio from films without getting demonetized?
Uh,
I'll do 10 seconds.
let's see.
Franklin's here, we take off. Fucking take off.
Take it off.
Look at my shit. Look at my shit. I got my blue Kool-Aid.
I don't know if you can hear that. I don't know if the audio goes through Skype when I do that. But he's jumping on his bed, and his bed is full of money. His bed is filled with money, and he's got these 2 young girls with him, and they love it. And he's got guns and money all over his bed, guns and weapons all over his walls, and he's jumping around in this like ecstatic state, talking about his spiritual realm, which is just all his shit. Look at my shit. So I thought this was one of the best scenes in the film, when he's going through all his weapons and his guns and his money and his Calvin Klein. He's like, I got Calvin Klein Escape. I smell nice.
And he squirts it like 20 times of both of them. He's like, you could even mix them.
Yeah. He's like, take Calvin Klein Escape, Calvin Klein B, and he sprays it both on him. It shows all his caps, all his hats that still have the stickers on it, all of his sneakers. He's like, I got shorts every color.
He's like, I color shorts.
I got shorts. His accent is so funny, and it's like you're cracking up watching the scene, but at the same time, it's like that is the millennial MTV dream, right? You know, a bunch of weapons and money and bitches. I got my bitches. I got my shit. I got my possessions. But it really is home. There's nothing cool about it. The bed looks like Scarface's. Some 1980s.
It's out of date. It's if you're in Florida, you see a lot of those kind of houses that were, they were probably $1 million back in the 70s, and they're all kind of run down. They look kind of nasty on the ocean, and the property would still cost a lot, but the houses are pretty gross. So he's definitely, in his mind, he's way above what he actually is. And it's funny too when he talks about his rap career, when he's describing who he is. He's like, oh no, I sell drugs, but he's like, but you see my YouTube videos, I'm about to blow up on YouTube.
Up on YouTube. He's like, I stand in front of all these people, like, I swear to God,
They sing my songs to me.
He's like, I swear to God, it's humbling, y'all. Which I thought that was a funny moment, because when people usually say, yeah, it was humbling, it's usually when they're humble bragging.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, it was so humbling, like having these people worship me.
About to blow up on YouTube.
About to blow up. Got my song on YouTube. What was the song called? Like Hanging with the Dope Boys or something?
Something dumb, yeah.
Some like trap song. The music sounds exactly.
Dope, yeah.
Hanging with
the dope boys, right.
So then he starts jumping around in ecstasy, grabbing his gun and saying, I'm going to kill that motherfucker. I'm going to kill that motherfucker. And the girls are like, yeah. We love it. And then the girls.
Then they're like, you're scared.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about it? He starts. Oh no, he takes the money, and he like puts it up next to her face, and she's like says something about like, this makes my pussy wet or something, like the money makes my pussy wet, which was just, it's so cringy. Every one of the girls' lines, it's like you want to cringe. I think earlier in the film when they first stole the money, one of them said like, it makes my tits look bigger. So it's like really funny lines, like this money makes my tits look bigger.
No, the dialogue was very base, very, very degenerate, very dumb, which is a little off-putting, because you think, is the dialogue, did he write it that bad, or is he just literally trying to describe how idiotic 18-year-olds would be talking? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was intentional. Like, it's intentionally corny. The acting is intentionally, like, when the girls deliver lines, they are just repeating shit they heard on TV, right? There's nothing coming from their soul. They're not speaking from their true self. It's just, saying shit that they heard. The money makes my tits look bigger. It's like, there's nothing, and it's very unattractive, right? It's very off-putting, and they're destroying themselves.
They're
physically.
gross NPCs, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then the chicks, they take his guns, and he's like, that's loaded, y'all, and they put it. They put the gun up to his head, and they're like, how do you know? What do they say to him? They say like, how do you know we're not just here to take all your shit? How do you know that we're not here? Let's see. I'll play the audio from this part.
Fucking at you. you are. You think that you can just fucking own us?
You think you can just fucking own us, they say.
Open your mouth.
And then they say, open your mouth, and they put the guns in his mouth, and they force him to, like, perform sexual acts on the guns. It's a really, really gross scene. Very hard to watch. Like, this is one of the more horrific scenes in the movie.
I turned away. It was a bit much for me. It was gross.
It's really disgusting. And then it cuts to him at the piano, and they've got pink their outfits. Do you remember what they're wearing in this music video?
Yeah, on their butts of the sweatpants. It says down to DTF.
DTF, right? There's like the
and
Jersey
they've got
Shore
pink toboggans over their face. Yeah.
So got the DTF pants, and they're wearing a unicorn pink ski masks, and they've got guns.
Yeah.
And they sing a Britney Spears song. And then it's basically a music video of these girls and James Franco performing acts of violence and robbing just like normal Americans, right? So there's a wedding.
It's almost like it's in the mind what in the minds of those people they would think, making it up the ladder, social climbing, doing the game, that like in their minds that's how they think it is. It's like in a music video.
Mm-hmm. And
that's how you get to the top.
And it's literally a music video. So they're dressed up in all their brand new sneakers, like bright hot sneakers, and their starter caps or whatever, and they're just pistol whipping people, and they go to a wedding and they smash this dude into the cake, and it's just this really corny music video.
Yeah, they go on a spree of basically they start robbing people on spring break and people having parties, right?
Mm-hmm. You know what, Jay? Let's reestablish the Skype call because I'm getting like audio interference. Let me just restart the Skype call real quick. All right, there you are. So yeah, and that sequence ends with them sitting in somebody else's house, looking at three dudes tied up in a bed, and they're smoking a joint and just like looking really cool with their guns and squinty eyes and looking hard in a music video. I don't know what to make of that sequence, but it's kind of haunting, like the way it was shot and the camera angles, and it's done cinematically really well with this really corny Britney Spears song. But there's something that was kind of like haunting about it.
Well, it's the fulfillment of her line at the beginning. You got to don't be scared of nothing. You got to act like you in a movie, act like you're in a video game. You got to be hard. And then here it is, right?
Right. So I mean, it's funny. It's like the whole millennial world, what they aspire to, what we've been taught since we were little kids to look forward to is just material possessions, money, guns, drugs, and hoes.
And the irony, of course, is that it's not really real. I mean, the story is over the top.
Yeah,
it's over the top in the same way as rap videos are over the top. They're egregiously over the top, right? They're my allergies are bugging me. I'm not snorting coke. I'm not doing no spring breakers style lifestyle.
You're not hanging out with riff raff over there in South Florida.
Peppermint tent, my peppermint tent. But anyway, yeah. So the movie itself is over the top. I think the ending is, and it's interesting that it's Gucci Mane. It's a over the top rapper who is the lead gangster.
Yeah.
Who is callously, coldly just assassinated at the end. We've seen this in rap, to a large degree. Many rappers do get assassinated.
Yeah, well, they hype him up, right? So they hype up James Franco, and then they go to strip clubs and stuff. They do all the corny rap video shit, and then they finally convince him, you got to go kill this guy. You got to kill your.
You got to kill Gucci Mane, and the irony there is James Franco's dead right away. Like he gets shot right when they get on.
Yeah.
Right when as soon as they're walking onto the plank of Gucci Mane's.
They're on this neon bridge,
boat
right?
dock. They pull up to his boat dock, and as soon as he steps out, James Franco gets shot in the head. He's down.
Yeah, and then they're on this like big neon bridge, and James Franco gets shot. Do they turn around and look, or do they just keep running? Like they didn't seem to care. They just
keep running. They give him a kiss when they're coming out, but they just keep going.
Yeah.
They take down all of Gucci Mane's guards.
And they don't even look. They just point the guns
right.
around, and the guys, everyone falls, right? All these dudes fall. They break into Gucci Mane's room, and he's there with his two. He's got like two hose.
He's in his hot tub, and he's got two hose in the shower. He's watching.
Yeah.
And then they just, and it's over. They run out, give James Franco a kiss, and head out. Mm-hmm. And the film closes with the two most wicked predators driving Gucci Mane's Maserati or whatever it was.
So the two Disney princesses, raised on the pop culture. The only things they consume in this entire film, it never shows them eating any real food. They're just smoking weed, doing coke.
It's just drugs. Yeah.
And they ate Fruit Loops one time. That's I noticed. One time they consumed Fruit Loops, but then they're blowing weed smoke into each other's mouths. They're just getting fucked up the whole movie. And then they also, in the last scene, when they're leaving, they're talking to their parents on their cell phones.
And they're talking about how they want to be better, and which is all bullshit.
Yeah.
It's all lies.
Like, I can't wait to come home. I've learned so much here. It's like
I want to be a good girl now.
Yeah, it's the most spiritual place I've ever been in my life, and stuff like saying these really corny things that are so juxtaposed to what the actions that they're taking are. And it's like horrific. You're seeing these girls, and they're talking to their parents on the phone. The people who are funding their whole operation have no idea how demented and destroyed they are. They go and they kill all the black characters in the film, and these two little pampered chicks go back to their dorm room with the Maserati from Gucci Mane, and they're fine with it. They don't look guilty at all. They're not freaked out. It's just here's what we are.
Yeah, the total moral abandon, no compunction, no sense of guilt, and the complete doublethink, the ability in their own minds to call home, say that they're good girls, and they want to do much better. They want to get back to being a good girl the way they used to be, and then they murder a bunch of people and have no guilt about it and don't even care, right? They're just like continuing on. I think speaks to that's his portrayal of the dangers and degeneracy of the millennials, just like Kids was a portrayal of the dangers and degeneracy of my generation, Gen X or whatever. It's very parallel to Kids. It's almost like the same type of film. Kids is about, this group of friends that have, total no moral compass, no compunction. And then one of them even, if I recall, doesn't he gets off basically on spreading AIDS? Isn't that the point? Is like he doesn't even care that he has AIDS. He's going to spread STDs.
He doesn't care at all. He doesn't know, but he doesn't want to know, right?
Oh, that's right. He doesn't want to know. He's just who cares?
Telly, right? That was his name. Was Telly?
Telly, exactly.
And then Casper is the other guy, and Casper ends up finding out at the end. So, like he learns, right? Doesn't he learn? Someone tells him, and then he wakes up after the party.
Doesn't he go ahead and screw that girl anyway?
That's what he does. Yeah. So he doesn't care. He's always talking about, I don't use no condom, man. Like he's just like, I'm sick with it, yo. They're all just skateboarding around, and they steal beer and shit. And I think the last scene of that film is him waking up and saying, "What the fuck happened?" And after just this night of infecting somebody with HIV, or no, he would have gotten HIV, right?
It's something like that. It's been I haven't seen it since it came out.
That's another horror movie. It's actually
it
one
is
of the
a horror movie,
movies.
And so is this. It's just two different generations of how they were corrupted by pop culture, drugs, degeneracy, temptation, essentially.
Yeah.
And in that regard, yes, it is a telling film. I just don't. It's kind of like the same. It's the ending of Under the Silver Lake. Like, what exactly does he mean by this ending? Does he mean that there's no hope for that generation, that they're just basically abandoned to moral nihilism, or what? How do you read that ending?
For Spring Breakers?
Yeah.
I just pulled up the last shot. So the last shot, they're in the car, and then the last shot is James Franco's dead body. The camera's upside down for some reason. The angle's upside down. They kiss him with their fake pink ski mask on that has a unicorn on their third eye, and then they walk off in their bikinis across a neon bridge. That's the last shot. I think basically what he's saying is that the driving force. Well, first of all, it's like James Franco, Gucci Mane, all these hard ass gangsters are not the real demons in the film. These two girls are actually literal demons, and there's a reference to it which we forgot to talk about earlier when Faith is talking to her friends. They're like, "You gotta watch out for them girls. They got demon blood."
Oh, that's right. That the redneck chicks in her hometown, they're like, "Don't go down to Florida with them. They got demons in them."
I'm gonna pray for you. I'm gonna pray real hard.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like, so
I forgot about that part. Yeah.
So they kill their own. You know, this guy that comes to save them. They basically, their whole thing is about baiting James Franco into it, taking all his possessions, taking his life, destroying all the lives around them. So I think it's basically just saying that the driving force behind like the whole pop culture degeneracy, destruction, he's showing that it permeates through the little girls. Like, it's not the hardcore gangsters that are destroying America. It's these little girls that are consuming the pop culture. And really what they're influenced by is the pop culture imagery, is the cereal box map, just like, what's his face, Andrew Garfield in the other film. So that's what drives their behavior. So I think ultimately it's about the demonic and spiritual nature of pop culture and what it is meant to do. And it's meant to commercialize, commoditize, and ultimately cannibalize all these other little subcultures and spit out people as a product.
Yeah, instead of scripture as a map, instead of the Bible as a map, tradition and heritage that we've had as these maps, now your map is something that your mind creates out of pop culture, whether it's a Zelda map or whether it's, you know, a video game quest, or whether it's the quest to become immortal through partying in spring break, you know, locales, or to become a rapper and, you know, ascend into the stardom of rapper nonsense. You know, it's all fake. It's all built on
break forever, y'all.
Spring break forever. That's what. Yeah, that comes up a lot in the film too. And Alien says that 3 or 4 times at one point. So spring break forever, spring break forever.
And then the girls, I think one of the last lines that they say might be "spring break forever, bitches." They say, and it sounds so corny when they say it, right? It's like, but that's how they live.
Forever, bitches. Yeah.
Right? They live in, like, they speak in tweets, they speak in Facebook posts. Even when they're talking to their mom, it's like this false. You know, their voice sounds a little different. It sounds really corny. It sounds forced. It sounds fake, and that's intentional.
Fake. Yeah.
Right? He could have gotten good performances out of them and say those things like they mean it, but it's meant to sound false. It's meant to sound like there's 3 layers of bullshit in between the characters and their actions.
Yeah. So lying to others and lying to yourself. That's another theme there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of spiritual deception too, right? Where it's like the audience thinks that Alien is the devil character, right? You think Alien's this, he's the devil, he's Satan, but it really turns out that these little 18-year-old girls fed pop culture, raised on, you know, Fruit Loops,
are more wicked than Alien. Yeah.
Yeah. Right, an Alien.
And they had a completely different upbringing. You know, Alien, his upbringing, unless he's all making it up, I mean, seems to be he really did grow up on the streets, and he really was, you know, taught the game by Gucci Mane and all this stuff. That all seems to be really the case. And these girls are sheltered. They're from this small town. You know, they're just going to some community college or whatever. They're ready to get out. And the irony is that they have been downloaded with the pop culture and it's produced a more wicked character than Alien, who actually did grow up on the streets.
Yeah, they're more destructive, more violent, more dangerous, and more evil. And it's funny, yeah, and you're right. They go to spring break to consume this, like, as an experience, right? So they see people like Gucci Mane, these dudes that are really living these lives in the hood, and you know, James Franco's character. They don't care about really connecting with these people or anything. It's just about consuming.
They see them as extras in their rap video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they steal their car in the end. They drive with their guns and all that. And it's people, when you watch the, I think a lot of people probably said, "Oh, it's so, like, what a weird movie. Why is it so corny in the end? They don't get shot at all. The girls are just running around, waving guns around, and everyone falls, and it's so unrealistic." But that's the reality that they're given. They're given total false reality.
They're chasing a phantasm. They're chasing an illusion, and that would be another common theme amongst both of these movies is chasing down something that's not going to fulfill you. That's illusory.
Yeah.
So now, if you read it in that way, I think you could see it as a positive assessment there.
So what do you think, Harmony Korine? Do you think Harmony Korine's trying to wake up the millennials, or do you think he's just like satanically rubbing their face in their shit and saying, "Look what you did"?
It could be a mixed message there. I mean, I've never talked to him, but I think he's probably trying to do a bunch of different things at once. He probably wants to, on the one hand, have an interesting, meaningful message, but he's also got to please, Disney or whoever funds the films. But he's also got to, he's got to try to skate between Scylla and Charybdis. So, it's similar to anybody who has a big name, bunch of stars in the film. It's hard to figure out what their motivations are, but I don't know. I guess I have to look and see what some of what he says in interviews probably, but
yeah. I remember when I first saw the movie, I did look at some of that and looked at some of the promotional material, and it was funny.
You did?
Yeah, but what I remember is he was going for, well, I mean, he didn't really say exactly what he was doing, but he seems like a very intelligent guy, very, very, very intelligent, knew exactly the aesthetic and stuff that he wanted, and he sought out this cinematographer. The same. Have you seen Into the Void? It's a horrible, terrible horror film.
Yeah, I've seen it.
That movie is freaky. Also,
it is pretty freaky. Yeah.
The cinematographer that did this movie, so I think that's why you see a lot of the same colors and stuff like that. What was interesting about like the promotional stuff? They tried to promote this to millennial kids and teenagers as hot sex, drugs, rock and roll spring break movie. And the reaction was that everyone who saw the movie hated it. Right? They thought they were going to see pop culture, like, oh, it's gonna be this cool movie with boobies, and they went, and it was just horrific. Yeah. It was this very, very terrible movie, intentionally corny, intentionally strange, and I think the response critically was people hated it. Everyone said that this is a terrible movie, don't go see it, like hashtag Spring Breakers sucks, stuff like that. So I think that was maybe his intention, like kind of trying to
I think so. That makes sense. Yeah,
because he knew commercially how it would be. He doesn't have control over like the trailers and this and that, and he probably figured how it would be marketed. And it must have been an interesting process making this film, but but definitely very, very gaudy, right? Like very
tacky.
And the sex scenes are like gross, right? Anytime that there's some sexuality or kissing or something, there's like over tongue, like really, really gross. Like human contact in the film is portrayed as violent, almost like all the sex it feels violent, and the violence is made sexy, which is kind of, I guess that's how they do it in pop culture these days.
Yeah, like there's no understanding of a difference between like eroticism or genuine seduction or something like that, and just really gross porn. Like the whole generation was over pornographized.
Yeah. What was interesting? I know you've done some stuff on the bronies and the weird subcultures and stuff. They're watching the only film. Like on their TVs, they're watching My Little Pony and I think Care Bears, and
I didn't notice the Care Bears. I saw the My Little Pony stuff. Yeah, the brony crap.
I might be wrong about Care Bears, but I saw the My Little Pony, and then Kimbo Slice street fights on YouTube. It's like in the background. It's just for some reason watching the Kimbo Slice beat the shit out of someone in a backyard. But really weird movie. I don't know. Which one did you enjoy more? Silver Lake or Spring Breakers?
Well, you've pulled up some points in Spring Breakers that I missed. So I'm rethinking some of the elements of it that I missed, that I didn't catch that first, because I've only seen it once.
Yeah.
I like Under the Silver Lake a little bit better just because of the depth and the Twin Peaks and old Hollywood references. And I kind of feel like an Andrew Garfield type of character. Not that I'm a listless millennial, but I'm right on the edge of Gen Z and millennial. And
you're really into older women, like grannies.
I live with a naked hippie. A naked boomer hippie. No, and I like to tend birds. there's 20 bird cages birds shitting everywhere here. No, yeah, I like that it was, he's basically decoding Hollywood. and he doesn't know how to process it, and it's an ambiguous ending. But the synchromistic, connections and the weird stuff behind the pop culture, it's all true.
Yeah.
What we're going to do with that is a different question, but it's all there. There's no question that the movie makes it clear that it is true. He kind of gives up. Is that the right response? I don't know, but it was fun. We'll have to do another one of these. We'll pick out a couple more movies. I'm gonna have to go here pretty soon. But
Yeah, I gotta get out of here too. I've been sitting down too long. My back hurts.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Hey, that was fun. I like this. I've wanted to do movie reviews at some point, but it's hard to do it on your own. We got a little Siskel and Ebert thing.
It's better when there's two people, and you notice and pick up things I missed. So
Yeah,
so it's
likewise.
always good to have two eyes on something, four eyes on something.
All right, so I got a suggestion for the next one. You probably already know because I've been bugging you about this one already. So it ties in with the same theme, with the following the white rabbit down the whole
I'm 3 episodes into Utopia. If that's what you're gonna say.
Exactly. So awesome. So we'll do Utopia next once
We'll
you
do
finish that
Utopia,
series. I think there's 12 episodes.
Yeah.
And it's easy to watch because there's a captivating story. But we'll do that next. So you guys can find more at jaysanalysis.com. I got to say, if you're not already subscribed to jaysanalysis.com, you got to become a subscriber. He not only does he do a lot of pop culture analysis and stuff to bring the kids in, to bring the views. You got to get the clicks. But you know what? He just does some of the most incredible theological analysis of modern culture. And as well as he breaks down some of the old church fathers' books, and he does a globalist book series that's really good. His website and his YouTube channel, I mean, he's giving you like university level theology lectures for free on YouTube almost every other day, and I can't even keep up with it. I sometimes have to listen to his lectures twice to really understand what the deep truths that he's getting to there. So make sure to check out.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah, check out jaysanalysis.com. And check out his. Gotta subscribe to his channel as well. And then Jay,
And by the way, if you're listening on my channel or at my audio podcast series or whatever, if you're on iTunes and you're hearing this, definitely check out Primal Edge Health too. I need to promote your stuff. I mean, since we've been doing shows, I've been going back. I've been watching your episodes that you do, and you've been cranking out interviews. I listened to the interview you did with Bobby. That was really fascinating, where you got into his history with, his views on veganism, how he's evolved on that issue. I've listened to the interview you did with Carnivore. So I've been catching up on your stuff, and there's a lot of good stuff you're doing there too.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks. Yeah, it's fun. We've been through a lot of different incarnations of the channel and over the years. But I like the direction we've been going lately. It's more fun. When I first started out, the first few years, it was basically just like, hey, it was basically just me on my porch, grab the camera. Usually don't have a shirt on because I live in Ecuador and it's always nice and hot. So most of my old videos are just me talking about nutrition and food and diet and stuff. But I've been enjoying the live streaming thing ever since this came out.
Yeah, live streaming it's a blast.
It's really good. I'm really glad. Hopefully we can keep live streaming and we don't get kicked off of YouTube too soon. But yeah, we'll do this again. Maybe once you finish Utopia, we can review Utopia and talk about that, because that definitely ties in a lot with the nutrition stuff we talk about on this channel as well. Remember, guys, it's not just
because the third episode now they're talking about the food company being involved in the conspiracy.
Yeah, and I think they even get a little bit deeper later on. They have some good shots of the cornfields when they're talking about that, right?
Right.
They flash to the cornfields. So yeah, Utopia. That was a series, 2013 and 14, in the UK. That's what we're going to talk about next. So if you guys haven't seen the Utopia series from Channel 4 UK, check that out. We'll do that, and maybe next week we'll get to it. And if you have any other suggestions of movies we can do esoteric analysis of, definitely let us know. Well, you know what? Jay, do you have time to answer this question? This is my friend Andrew Scarborough. He's a really cool guy. So Andrew Scarborough, he's a cancer survivor. He had a brain tumor, and he uses a ketogenic carnivore diet to keep from having seizures all the time. And it works pretty dang well. He says, what do you think of the Daniel fast, theologically and otherwise?
I remember reading about this a long time ago. I'm sure there's nothing wrong with that. I would say that's a profitable thing, probably.
There you go. So, yeah, the book of Daniel is really interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. So
One
everybody,
of my favorites.
nice. Didn't you? Isn't Daniel your patron saint?
It is. Yeah, I chose Daniel. Correct.
Nice. Nice, man. So you guys check out Utopia series. We'll do that one next. We'll talk about that one. It ties in with food, social engineering, also media being used as kind of leading people down certain paths of understanding. And I think you guys will like that chat. So we'll talk about that next one. And Jay, what else you got going on now, man? You got anything new? You got a new book, right? What's up with the book?
Well, yeah, you can get signed copies of Esoteric Hollywood 2 in my shop at Jay's Analysis. You can get part 1 as well. Everybody's orders are out, so they're all caught up. Yours went out probably about a week ago.
My brother got it. Yeah, he's gonna bring it to me. I'll have it on next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, everybody's is in the mail. Sorry that it took longer. I ran out really quick the first batch, so they were sold in 3 or 4 days. So I had to wait until I came back to Florida and got a whole new batch of books. But anyway, so it's all good now. All pretty much 5-star reviews so far. I think 9 people have reviewed it, and 4.5 out of 5. So
there you go. So don't get it from Amazon though, right? You don't want people buying it from
Amazon. Don't pay Jeff Bezos. If you want to get it from me. It's a little bit more, but I'll sign it. And next coming up, I'm about a third of a way into a video I'm making in the style of the Eye of the Devil video. Since that video did pretty good, this one's going to be about a recap of like the pop culture ceremonies that we've been given. So going back to Tim Leary, going back to the 60s, looking at big mass ceremonies, coming from that period all the way up to Super Bowls, Olympics, these degenerate ceremonies.
That tunnel ceremony. Everybody's
the tunnel, the Gutenberg tunnel, the Swedish tunnel. Definitely that one's in there, because we forget about these ceremonies. Like because they just crank them out, and then this year it's what's this year's Super Bowl garbage about? What's this year's VMAs about? I wanted to recap these because I've never really covered those in depth, give my analysis of them, but have it in like a 30-40 minute mini documentary style. So I'm about a third of the way done. That should be out in the next few days.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, it's interesting how these ceremonies and these mass events, people don't even understand kind of the cultural roots and the spiritual roots of these things and why they're done. You get thousands of people in one area chanting something. Like these have powerful effects on human consciousness, and that'll be good, man. I look forward to that one. So you guys make sure to subscribe to Jay's channel. I'll pin in the pinned comment on this video will be Jay's website and his channel. So check him out there, and check out his book Esoteric Hollywood 2. I'm sure it's great. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't gotten my copy yet, but I'm excited to read it. So thanks, Jay.
All right, man.
All right.
God bless. Have a good day.